little bit of a quiet week on the IPFW athletic front this past week. Not too many things going on. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll tell you what did take place, and we'll have a chat with head cross-country coach Mike Frucci, along with a couple of his ace runners. Our program is called Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. It's coming your way next right here on College 56 Sports.
This month on IPFW Up Close, we learn as the curtain is ready to rise on the fall theater season as we meet the directors of three very different productions. We'll be talking with the faculty of the Division of Organizational Leadership and Supervision to find out what's new and learn about their new master's program. And we'll take you to an exhibit at IPFW's Visual Arts Gallery and find how the shows are chosen and presented. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access, Channel 56.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Miles. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. As is our custom, we start our program off by reviewing what took place over the past week or so. As I said earlier, not too much going on. Some of the teams had the entire week off. Some of the other teams didn't take their action on the field until on the weekend. First sport we're going to start is cross country. Our men's and cross-country teams participated in the 50th running of the Notre Dame Invitational over in South Bend last Friday, the 30th of September. And we'll take a look at the men's scores first. The men's team finished in 22nd place in the gold division. Calvin College was on top. IPFW finished 22nd. Leading runner for the Dons, Hunter Paris, finished 91st overall with a time of 26 minutes and 35 seconds. Garrett Bratmuller, I probably pronounced that wrong, but we'll get that corrected by Mike Frucci momentarily. Came in 127th overall. His time was 27:16, followed by Mike Reidenauer, Chris Brown, and Brandon Reichert. Again, the men finished 22nd overall. Now we switch from the men's cross-country team to the women's cross-country team. Again, they also participated in the gold division. And they finished 10th overall. Michigan came out on top, but the Dons finished 10th, and they were led by Ashley Ritchie, the junior from Leo, finished 3rd overall individually. Her time 17 minutes and 58 seconds. Christina Martinez, one of the freshman twins from Northwest Indiana, finished 51st overall. Her time 19:04. Then the twins from Northrop High School, Lauren and Kristen Simpson, finished 55th and 76th respectively. Lauren's time 19:06, Kristen's time 19:19, and then Crystal Martinez, the twin sister of Christina, finished 101st overall. Her time in the race 19 minutes and 41 seconds. From cross country, and we're going to talk more in depth about cross country a little bit later on, we're going to switch to soccer. Coach Terry Stefankowicz's women's team had two matches over this past week. On Friday, September 30th, they took on Loyola of Chicago from the Horizon League, and they played a double overtime draw. And again, if you're not familiar with soccer, they play two 45-minute halves, and if it's tied, they play it could be up to two 10-minute extra periods. And they did play all told 110 minutes. Again, a 1-1 tie. Jenna Tully got the IPFW goal, and Shannon Lynn in goal kicked away 7 save attempts. So she made 7 good saves in that match. That was on Friday night. Then on Sunday, the team traveled to, it was actually Illinois State, and was defeated 3-1, had their 4-match unbeaten string snapped. Annika Apar, sophomore, scored the only IPFW goal in the second half of play. And again, Shannon Lynn made 7 saves playing between the pipes in the net. So IPFW now 2-6-3 overall with the women's soccer program. The 2 other events took place. The women's tennis team partook in the Ball State Invitational down in Muncie. That was a combination singles, doubles, and they participated, didn't win. In fact, I think they might have only won just a couple of matches, but they did participated. And then women's volleyball had just 1 match. They traveled up to Rochester, Michigan, north of Detroit on Sunday, took on the Grizzlies from Oakland University, member of the Mid-Con. And they lost game one of that match 30-24, but then came back and won games 2, 3, and 4 by scores of 30-25, 30-26, and 30-17, improving their overall record to 12-2 on the year. Fabiana Souza, the career kills leader for IPFW, had 22 kills on Sunday, 14 digs. Erica Leitsky played game one from the setter position, had 14 assists. Then in games 2, 3, and 4 played defensive specialist, had 11 digs overall. And again, we invite you to find out more about women's volleyball tuning into Kelly's Corner here on College 56 Sports. So again, somewhat of a light week. Also do want to tell you that there were two other teams that were in action this week, late last week, beginning part of this week, and that's the men's and women's golf teams. The men's team is playing in a tournament down the road in Muncie at Ball State, and the women's team is at the Northern Illinois Husky Classic, and we'll let you know on next week's program how things turned out. But again, a light week, so to speak, on the athletic front. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to sit down and chat with Mike Frucci, the head coach for both men's and women's cross country here at IPFW. Again, our program's called Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. We're coming right back in just a moment, right here on College 56 Sports.
Pizza! Pizza! I must eat. Wait, what is this? Capsicum anum? Agaricus bisporus? Allium cepa?
Can we eat this?
Peppers, mushrooms, and onions. Eat your pizza, man.
Honey.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Did you know IPFW has its very own pep band? The Stomp Band is looking for more members, and we want you to join. IPFW students even receive a credit for their participation. Perfection is not required, just enthusiasm and a desire to share your school spirit. Check out our website for more information. Don't just play, stomp.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Our emphasis this week is on cross country, a sport that not many people know all that much about. Our first special guest is the head coach here at IPFW for both men's and women's cross country. Happy to have back on the program Mike Frucci. Welcome back, sir.
It's nice to be back, Mike.
As we said before we started taping this program, I'm not sure who it's tougher to get, you or baseball coach Billy Gernon, because you both are so darn busy. You're busier than the ever-ready bunny.
Yeah.
But again, welcome back. Is it hard to believe that this is year number 5 for you as the head coach of cross country?
It's actually year number 6 for cross.
We're going to jump on our sports information department. We'll needle Rudy and Christine.
Time flies when you're having fun, and it's just been an enjoyable experience. So.
A brief look back at the last 5 years, because for the most part, it was evolutionary. I think it might have been run as a sport several years ago, but what's it been like, a quick look back at the last 5 years putting this cross-country programs together?
We just came so far, and it hasn't been, it's just taken, a piece at a time and a runner at a time and developing them and just, building our program up to where, to where it needs to be, and we're still in that process, but it's came so very far. And you can just tell that in our recruiting. I mean, kids that would not have looked at us 5 years ago now are looking at us, and these are top quality athletes. So I know that what we're doing is really good, and so I'm happy with the development, and we've still got somewhere to go, but we're light years ahead of where we started. So.
College 56 is known as an educational station, so we're going to have Cross Country 101 for a brief moment. Mm-hmm. For some of our viewers that aren't familiar with cross country, can you just state it's both an individual race but also a team sport, and can you just talk about like what the distances are for both men and women and how it's scored?
Yeah, basically in college cross it's run on grass, and the men run generally an 8,000 meter race, although they do a 10,000 meter at the NCAA regional. The women run a 5,000 meter race and then also a 6,000 meter race. So they're really two different race distances for men and women. It's scored individually and as a team, and so each individual placeholder, if you get first place, fifth place, 10th place, 15th, and 20th, you just add those places together, and that's your team score. Your first 5 runners place. Your top 7 are varsity, but only the first 5 in count for your scoring. But you're right; it is individual, and there's individual, prizes for winning and that kind of thing. And
but there is some strategy involved in a lot of cases, and you and I have talked about this in seasons past. But what is the preference if you have an outstanding runner, and we'll talk more about Ashley when we talk about the women's program, because we're going to start with men's first. But when you have an outstanding individual, as opposed to maybe 3 or 4 runners that are of a somewhat equal ability, do you have what's called the rabbit as opposed to the pack? What is your preference as far as coaching wise? Which way would you prefer to coach?
I think it's a lot easier to get your scores, to make scores better on the backside of things. It's really hard to have that superstar athlete. It's hard to have that person up front like Ashley is for us. It's much easier to develop kids and get them to be number 3, 4, 5 runners and get them to be a pack than it is trying to get somebody to run way up front. I mean, it's more difficult. So
we're going to start with the men's team, and I take a quick look at the roster. I see 1 senior on the squad, and that's Brandon Reichert out of Northrop High School. So you're getting them young, and they're getting a baptism of fire early. Talk about the makeup of the men's team. Yeah,
really, we just have 1 senior on the team, and all these kids have been, now are back for their 2nd year. I mean, we don't have any freshmen on the team, so all these guys are returning runners, and they're finally, they're doing this summer kind of base work they need to be doing to develop, and they've all gotten faster from last year. And this is really, as these kids mature and become juniors and seniors, we're going to have pretty good teams the next couple of years. Well,
I'm looking at here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 juniors. So if Rudy's information is correct, and of course I'll needle him and he'll needle me. But we talked about, let's talk about some of these other people. Chris Brown, Mark Green, Andrew Gritzmaker, Mike Reidenauer, who we're going to talk to in depth later in the program. Again, they're juniors. Now, are most all of them in their 3rd year of competition here at IPFW?
Yeah, Chris has been here for 4 years. He redshirted a year. So, but yeah, we're going to have a fairly large senior class, but we also have Hunter Paris and Wes who are sophomores in eligibility.
And we mentioned Hunter Paris's name in the review. He seems to be your leading runner right now.
Yeah, he is by far our leading runner. He's led every practice, I think, and every hard workout, every race. And as long as we keep him healthy. Last year he got hurt, but still finished up well for us at the NCAA regional meet. So it's just a matter of keeping Hunter healthy, but he's by far our number 1 runner. When you look again at the roster of this team, it's pretty much Northeast Indiana. A lot of Southern Athletic Conference, Northeast Hoosier Conference. I see Chris Brown is out of Bluffton High School, which is the ACAC, and Wes Coons out of Leah, which is also ACAC. So the base for this team is primarily right here in your own backyard. Yeah, that was the the draw for me to come here to coach to begin with, Mike, when the program really didn't have many good athletes in it. Just knowing that I went to Carroll High School here in the area, and this area just puts out really good runners and has for a long time, and you can develop them and with the proper training, they can be successful Division I runners. So the nice thing for me, as opposed to some of the other sports, is I don't have to go too far from home to get the athletes that can be successful. Indiana puts out plenty of great runners. So
we take a look at what's transpired so far. The men's team has participated at the Indiana Community 5K, I believe. That was in Bloomington. The Big State, Little State race, which was also down at IU. And at the, I guess it's also called the Indiana Intercollegiates, where you finished 6th. I honestly can't remember where you finished in Big State, Little State. And then last weekend, you participated, the men's team, in kind of an unusual meet in St. Louis, billed as cross-country only national championship. Tell us about that.
That's kind of a neat meet that St. Louis University started. Maybe, I don't know how long it's been going on, probably at least for 5 years or so. But it's for schools that just sponsor cross country and do not sponsor track. And so since we just have a men's cross program and don't have a men's track program, it's for those schools to come and compete. And our guys did a good job, came in second. We had a chance, to win, and the men knew that going in, and they did well. St. Louis ran well that day and nipped us a little bit, but it's a great meet for them and really puts them on more equal footing, because having the track program is an advantage to their development. So.
And then they finished 22nd at Notre Dame.
Yep.
I'm told we're running a little short on time, so we're going to try to speed things up and go 78 and a 33, so to speak. The women's program, highly successful, and led by a gal who we're going to talk to in a few minutes, Ashley Ritchie out of Leo High School. But quickly, you've got two sets of twins.
Yep.
In about 40 seconds or so, tell us quickly about the makeup of this team and that Fab Five, so to speak.
Yeah, it's Ashley up front, and then the Simpson twins, and then the Martinez twins. And the Simpson twins are seniors, and Martinez twins are freshmen. But they really are 5 scorers and have been all season. They do a great job. I mean, Ashley does it up front, and then they just support her. And we've gotten better every meet, and we've beaten teams that we've never beaten before. That finish at Notre Dame was our highest finish there in a very difficult field. Beat Valparaiso for the first time. We came close four times last year and couldn't quite get over the hump, and now we've beaten them once, and hopefully we don't look back, and we're moving on. Intercollegians was a great meet for us. You mentioned it. The women actually got 5th in that meet. We were 3 points behind Indiana State, 20 points behind Ball State, 40 points behind Purdue. I mean, we've cut those point gaps from hundreds of points to just a very few points, and we're really coming on to the other state schools, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. Certainly, I challenge our team to do that, and that challenges those schools to do what they need to do. So.
Hate to say it, we're out of time in this segment. I appreciate you coming over and chatting, and continued success with both programs. Again, this has been Mike Frucci, the head coach for both men's and women's cross country here at IPFW. When we come back, we're going to talk to a couple of his runners, Ashley Ritchie and Mike Reidenauer. Please stay tuned. Mastodon Spotlight continues in a moment right here on College 56 Sports. Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, our emphasis this week is cross country, both men's and women's cross country here at IPFW. We just spoke with Mike Frucci, the head coach for both programs, I should say. Now we're going to speak with a couple of the runners, one for each team. To my immediate right is Mike Reidenauer. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
I never know if it was Reidenauer or Riddenauer.
It's Reidenauer.
It's Reidenauer.
Yeah.
And you're a junior from Northrop High School? Am I correct on that? Yeah. We get lucky once in a while. And to Mike's right is junior Ashley Ritchie. You're some kind of a runner, gal. Junior out of Leo High School. Welcome to both of you. And I'm going to try to be genetically correct, Ashley. We're going to start with you. I know you and I, you were on our program last year briefly, I believe. But for those viewers who didn't catch your program last year, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm Ashley Ritchie, and I've been running since I was in 6th grade. So I've been running for quite a number of years, and I really enjoy it. I'm studying to be an education major here at IPFW. And
you have just burst onto the scene. Because I have to admit, I've lived in Fort Wayne since 1987, and I got my start in broadcasting doing high school athletics, primarily football, basketball, but then we get on to other sports, and I've had the opportunity to write for both newspapers here in Fort Wayne. I don't recall hearing or seeing much about you in high school, but you came here at IPFW, and for lack of a better phrase, and I'll get shot for this, you're kicking butt. You have set numerous records, not only in cross country, but in track and field as well. What's the allure for running for you?
Oh, I don't know. It's just the way, I don't know. Like, it's just something that I really love to do. And like in high school, it was more social. And then now I came to college and just totally different level.
You're a junior now, and Mike, I'll get to you in a moment. What was the biggest change from running cross country in high school to running cross country in college for you? Besides the distance factor.
The distance wasn't really that big of a factor because we went from running 4,000 to 5,000 meters, so that wasn't big. It was more the competition, knowing that you're running against the best girls from every state there is. You know, because if you're running in college, that means you obviously love what you're doing and you're very good at it. And so it was the fact that I knew that the competition out there was going to be really great.
But you're doing so, you're doing so well. We're going to give you a little rest for a minute, and let's turn our attention now, Mike, to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I went to Northrop High School here in town. We always had a solid cross-country team. I ran at the state meet 3 years in a row. Just Coach Peterson's still coaching there. Probably be doing for a couple more years.
One of the nicest people I have met in my life is Coach Barry Peterson, and I first met him when he was actually not at Northrop but at Concordia. Of course, my kids went to Concordia Lutheran High School, but one of the nicest guys I've ever had a chance to meet. What is it that he was able to instill in you to run cross country? Did you also run track as well, I believe? So you ran cross country and track. What did Coach Peterson instill in you that you still use today when you're running cross country for Coach Frucci?
Just, that hard work ethic that, it's just hard to teach someone that doesn't want it. It's just, we had good teams and we always wanted to keep the tradition alive. He'd always speak about, going to the state meet every year, make sure that we're ready when it comes.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Ashley. What's the biggest difference you've seen from running cross country in high school to running cross country in college? Besides being bigger, faster, stronger.
There really isn't much difference from my experience. It's just the workouts are a little bit longer, a little bit harder, same with the meets, but nothing's really changed, just a different group of guys.
I'll ask each of you the same question. What's a typical day of practice like? Ashley, I'll start with you.
A typical day of practice begins with the stretching, socializing, having fun, and then we get into our workout, and it'll either be like a long, hard distance run or repeat workout.
When you say a distance run, how many meters or miles are we talking about?
8 or 9 miles. I know, but that's pretty much all it is. And then we get back and we stretch, and then we go and either do like an ab workout or we go and lift in the weight room.
Lifting.
Lifting.
Runners actually do lift weights. When I ran cross country, which was back in the last century, we didn't lift weights. We just ran forever. I had a coach who just, you're running. You run on streets, you run on hills, you run on a golf course, you run on bricks, whatever, because we had to go adapt to any kind of different type of conditions. When you guys run in practice, what kind of conditions do you run on? Same thing, or do you just mix it up? Or do you go hills? Do you go grass? Do you go cement?
Yeah, we mix it up all the time. Yeah. Towards the end of the season, we usually stay on the grass to be a little easier on our legs than the hard pavement. But wherever coach wants to take us.
Okay, let's take it to the next step. It's meet day. Like last Friday at South Bend, for example, in the Notre Dame Invitational. What's the mindset, let's say the last 60 minutes before the start of the race? What's going through your mind? Besides, you're warming up, you're loosening up, you're getting all the muscles loose and so forth. Now, from the psychological standpoint, what are the two of you thinking as you're getting ready to race last Friday up in South Bend? Mike?
I just think about like how I'm going to take the race out. Like like last week at Notre Dame, you had to start out fast because the course is so narrow and so many turns that, you know, you had to go out 15, 20 seconds faster than you're used to. That's comfortable for you. You have to go out that fast.
And your thoughts, Ashley? We got about 30 seconds to talk about your thoughts.
I really try not to think about too much. I try and more focus on not worrying about my race and just letting it happen as it's going to happen. I know the competition's there, and you know, it's just all about running with the competition and not worrying about anything else. Not worrying about how your legs feel or how you feel that day, just going out and doing it.
Well, we appreciate each of you giving us a little bit of your time, and I know your time is valuable on the course, but and in the classroom. Continued success, both on the cross-country course and in the classroom here at IPFW. And again, thanks for coming on the program this week.
Thanks.
We've been chatting with two members of the IPFW cross-country teams, Mike Reidenauer from Northrop High School on the men's team, and Ashley Ritchie, the junior standout from Leo High School for the women's team. We'll take a break and then come back and wrap up this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. That's in a moment right here on College 56 Sports.
Pizza!
I must eat.
Wait, what is this? Capsicum anum? Agaricus bisporus? Allium cepa?
Can we eat this?
Peppers, mushrooms, and onions. Eat your pizza, man.
Honey.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Ashley Ritchie from Leo High School and Mike Reidenauer from Northrop High School, as well as their coach, Mike Frucci, for appearing on the program. Well, let's take a look at what's ahead this coming week for IPFW athletics. And I think the first sport we're going to talk about will be cross country. The men's team will be at the Saluki Invitational at Southern Illinois University. That's on the 8th of October. And while the men are running at Southern Illinois, the women are going way out west to San Diego, California. They're going to participate in the Triton Classic at UC San Diego. Again, that is also Saturday, October the 8th. From cross country, let's turn our attention to my favorite sport, golf. Again, this coming week, the men's team is going to be at Morehead State University at the Greg Palmer Eagle Classic. That's October 10th and 11th. And while the men are at there, the women aren't going to be playing there. Take that back. Now let's go to men's soccer. Terry Stefankowicz's squad going to be at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo on Friday night, the 7th. And then on Sunday afternoon, the 9th, here at home at the Hefner Fields Complex, 1 o'clock, the opponent, University of Detroit from the Horizon League. From men's soccer, we change to men's tennis. The team is on the road. Friday, they're at Robert Morris, and on Sunday, they are at Cleveland State. And while the men are playing tennis, the women's tennis team is going to be on the trip as well. On Saturday, they're going to be at St. Vincent's College in PA. And then on Sunday, they also, like the men, will be playing at Cleveland State, the Vikings member of the Horizon League. And last but not least, women's volleyball. Kelly Hartley-Hutton's squad, now 12-2 on the year. They are going to get on a bus and travel to North and South Dakota. On Friday night, they're going to take on North Dakota State, a team that's only 1-19 on the year, only has one senior. And then on Saturday, they're going to take on South Dakota State. Both of these teams, the Dons had to defeat last year to win the National Independent Championship. So that's a look ahead at what's going to take place in the next several days on the athletic front here at IPFW. Well, that's it for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank our special guests, Mike Frucci, as well as Ashley Ritchie and Mike Reidenauer, for talking cross-country here on the program this week. And as always, we thank you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW Athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. But until then, this is Mike Maas saying thanks for tuning in. Have a great week and continue to go Dons. To say that the fall athletic season is really underway here at IPFW would be an understatement, as action took place on the soccer fields, the volleyball court, the golf course, and a few other places as well. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll tell you what took place here at IPFW, and we're going to talk with Abby Redeker, the NCAA Compliance Coordinator. Our program is called Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. It's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
Month on IPFW Up Close, we learn that the curtain is ready to rise on the fall theater season as we meet the directors of 3 very different productions. We'll be talking with the faculty of the Division of Organizational Leadership and Supervision to find out what's new and learn about their new master's program. And we'll take you to an exhibit at IPFW's Visual Arts Gallery and find how the shows are chosen and presented. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access, Channel 56.
You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, 2 great names.
Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we try to take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. I said a moment ago, the fall season here, athletic-wise at IPFW, is really underway as we had action taking place all over the place, really. We're going to start off with our review by not talking about a sport per se that's going on, but talking about something that our 2 basketball teams did this past Tuesday over at Scott's Foods on North Clinton Street. For 27 years, Scott's Foods has had what's called Cancer Day, where they give a percentage of what they bring in to the American Cancer Society. And this past Tuesday, both the men's and women's basketball teams here at IPFW went over to Scott's, and they helped the cause as they bagged groceries and took groceries out to people's cars and so forth. A noble endeavor indeed, and we commend both the men's and women's basketball teams for working with the community. Now, on to athletics per se. First stop this week, cross country. We had Mike Frucci on last week on the program, and we appreciated him coming over. The women's cross country team got on the Big Bird and headed out west to San Diego, California, where they took part in the Triton Cross Country Classic sponsored by the University of California at San Diego. Good news, IPFW came in second as a team, scoring 61 points. UC San Diego had 39 points and they won the meet, but IPFW was second. They were paced by Ashley Ritchie, who was also on last week's program. Ashley came in second overall, her time 22 minutes and 15 seconds, followed by Christina Martinez, who was 9th, Lauren Simpson, who was 18th, Crystal Martinez, who was 29th, and Kristen Simpson, who finished 31st. They completed the scoring portion. Also want to note that Valerie Hardesty and Sarah Ellis ran and competed. They actually finished in 56th and 130th place, respectively. So a great showing by the women's cross-country team out in San Diego. Now from the cross-country course, let's move to the golf course, my favorite sport. We mentioned last week when we tape our program that both men's and women's golf teams were participating in an event. The men's team was down in Muncie at the Earl Yingstingsmeyer Invitational, and they finished 13th overall. Ball State won it with a 54-hole score of 824. The Dons had 915. Patrick Kelly finished tied for 44th individually. His 54-hole score 223. Nathan Hoff finished tied for 59th at 229. And Matt Fry tied for 63rd with a 54-hole score of 231 to lead the way for the men's team. While the men were at Ball State, the women were at Northern Illinois University taking part in the Husky Classic, and they finished 8th with their 36-hole score of 675. Butler came out on top with a score of 604. Freshman Allison Rathsman finished with a 36-hole score of 159. Jackie Spees had 167, and Abby Waltke, again all of them freshmen, her 36-hole score 173. Nicole Geyer had 180, and Stephanie Hobbs had 182. That's what took place on the golf course. From the golf course, let's move to soccer. Men's soccer team has had a rough go of it this year. They had 3 matches in a span of 5 days last week. On October the 5th, they went down I-69 to Indianapolis, took on the IUPUI Jaguars in Mid-Con. Close game at halftime. It was 1-0, but IUPUI scored 3 goals in the second half and defeated the Dons 4-0. Then on Friday, they traveled to Kalamazoo, Michigan to take on the Broncos of Western Michigan University. And again, IPFW now an associate member of the Mid-American Conference for men's soccer. So this was a conference match, and it was a tough one. Victor Webb scored early for IPFW to give the Dons an early lead, but it was tied 2-2 at halftime. It tied 2-2 after regulation, 90 minutes. They went overtime, and Western Michigan, with just over 5 minutes left in the overtime, got the game winner, a tough 3-2 overtime loss to Western Michigan. That was on Friday night. And then on Sunday, the team was back home at the Hefner Fields Complex, took on the University of Detroit Titans. Again, a tough match. IPFW trailed early. They were down 2-0 midway through the second half, but they came back, got goals from Ben Springman and Trevor Peasley to tie the match, went into overtime, and again, unfortunately, the Dons lost in overtime by a score of 3-2. Overall, now IPFW's men's team is 1-10 overall. While the men were playing 3 matches last week, the women's team only played once, and that again was last Wednesday down in Indianapolis, again against IUPUI. And the news much better this time. The women's team getting a victory, 3-0 over IUPUI. Brittany Saylor got the Dons on the board early, and then Heather Curry scored her first 2 goals of the season. 3-0 shutout. Shannon Lynn in the pipes getting the shutout for IPFW. Women's team now 3-6-3 overall. From soccer, let's go to tennis. Men's tennis team got their fall season underway, and from the team competition, had a couple of matches over the weekend. On Friday night, they defeated Robert Morris 6-1, winning all 3 doubles matches and 5 out of the 6 singles matches. Then on Sunday, they traveled to Cleveland State to take on the Vikings from the Horizon League. Again, good news. Final score 5-2. IPFW won only they won 2 of the 3 doubles matches, and Landry Nudzi, Carlos Gonzalez, Nathan Jones, and Daniel Jackson all won at singles. So a good weekend for the men's tennis team, winning both of their matches. Women's tennis team also played a couple of matches over the weekend. On Saturday, they defeated St. Vincent's College of Pennsylvania 7-2, winning 2 of the 3 doubles and 5 of the 6 singles matches. And then on Sunday, they also played at Cleveland State. Unfortunately, the news not so good. They lost 5-2, winning only 1 of the doubles matches and 2 of the singles matches. And then finally, women's volleyball traveled to the Dakotas via bus last week to take on North Dakota State Friday night and South Dakota State Saturday night. A relatively easy victory Friday night. You see the Dons won by scores of 30-24, 30-26, and 30-23. Fabiana Souza had 19 kills. Jessica Miller, the freshman from Concordia High School, had 9. And Erica Leitsky had 40 assists on Friday night. Then on Saturday night, tougher going at South Dakota State. Don won the first 2 games 30-25 and 30-26. Lost games 3 and 4 by identical scores of 30-28. Had to go to a 5th and final game, and they came out on top 15-10. Again, the Brazilian contingent did well. Fabiana Souza, 23 kills and 11 digs, and Sonara Martins had 22 kills and 12 digs. The women's volleyball team now 14-2 overall, having a splendid season. That's what took place over this past week here at IPFW on the athletic front. Time for a break. When we come back, you ever wonder how it is that students are eligible to participate in intercollegiate athletics here at IPFW? Well, we're going to be speaking with the NCAA compliance coordinator here at IPFW, and you're going to find out a lot about what it's like to stay eligible. Abby Redeker is our guest. We'll chat with Abby in a couple of moments when Mastodon Spotlight returns here on College 56 Sports.
Pizza!
I must eat.
Wait, what is this? Capsicum animal? Agaricus bisporus. Allium cepa.
Can we eat this?
Peppers, mushrooms, and onions. Eat your pizza, man.
Honey.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Did you know IPFW has its very own pep band? The Stomp Band is looking for more members and we want you to join. IPFW students even receive a credit for their participation. Perfection is not required, just enthusiasm and a desire to share your school spirit. Check out our website for more information. Don't just play, stomp.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. As I said a few moments ago, interesting question. Do you know what it's like to keep these student athletes eligible to participate in intercollegiate athletics here at IPFW? Well, our special guest has the answer to that question. We're happy to welcome to the program Abby Redeker, who is the NCAA Compliance Coordinator. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, we really appreciate it. Take a deep breath and relax. We're going to have fun over the next 12 minutes or so. I asked this of our student athlete guests that come on the program, so I'll ask it of you. Please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm originally from outside Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to Ball State, right up the road, played soccer there, and graduated in 2003. Then I went to West Virginia University, got my master's in sport management, and also worked in the compliance office there. And then from West Virginia, I started IPFW in May of 2004.
NCAA Compliance Coordinator. Mm-hmm. Interesting title. What is the official job description?
Oh, it means everything. I am in charge of monitoring eligibility. That means initial eligibility for our freshmen and continuing eligibility for our students once they enroll at IPFW. I'm in charge of making sure our student athletes, our staff, our coaches are all following the NCAA manual, so all the rules and regulations. I'm in charge of doing all the NCAA mandated reports, and there are a lot of those. And then I work with Tim Heffron on financial aid and scholarships, and just so many things. But it's a really fun job. I get to work with student athletes and coaches on a daily basis, get to go watch them and their sporting events, so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of details, but it's a lot of fun. For eligibility, the NCAA has a clearinghouse for freshmen. They have to have a certain amount of core courses that they have passed in order to participate immediately. And then once they begin at IPFW, they must pass 24 hours, new credit hours every year, maintain a corresponding GPA. It's usually around a 2.0. And then they have to have certain progress towards degree requirements, so they're on track to graduate and not just be an athlete when they come to college.
You mentioned core courses. Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little more detail?
For core courses, they have to have 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of a social science, and 2 years of a physical science. And then they also have to have certain electives that follow with that.
Without mentioning the name of a specific student, let's get semi-hypothetical for a moment. Talk about the process for an incoming freshman. And actually, I would believe it would actually start you working with a coach of a particular sport, because that coach is going to come up to you and say, here's the name of a student athlete that we want to come to the university. Take it from there and talk about what some of the steps are. It's like you say, to make that student athlete eligible to participate right when he or she gets here on campus.
Well, you just talked about another one of my job duties, recruiting. I have to make sure we're following all the recruiting rules too. A coach will identify a prospect to me. We have a database of all our prospects. Once they've called them more than 2 times, they become a recruited prospect. Once they're identified to me, we send them out a brochure on registering with the NCAA Clearinghouse. They have to send a transcript to the Clearinghouse. They pay a $50 fee to register. That fee has increased from $30 to $50.
Wow.
They need to go to their counseling office and make sure they're taking courses that meet the core course requirements. That would be my biggest recommendation to anyone that's in high school right now. Meet with your guidance counselor. Make sure you're taking courses that fulfill those core requirements. And then they usually, I put them in the NCAA Clearinghouse database. I'm able to pull up their courses once they've registered and make sure they're taking the right classes. Then I can check their GPA against their test scores, because it's a sliding scale. The higher GPA you have, the lower test scores you can have to be eligible. The higher test scores you have, the lower GPA you can have to be eligible. Once they're in that database, they send a final transcript at the end of their high school career, and then they'll be certified or not certified, and that way, as soon as they get to IPFW, they can start.
So the process would actually begin right when school gets out in June for the high school student becoming a college student, or is it happen
That's
before
when
then?
it's finalized. As a junior, you can register for the clearinghouse. I would say at the beginning of your senior year, you really need to get on that. The later you wait, the more of the delay we can have once you get to IPFW. There are 14 days as a recruited student athlete that you can practice while you're in the certification period. For a non-recruited, it's 45 days if you're a walk-on, because they understand that you may have not registered for the clearinghouse. But once those days are passed, we pull you off the practice court, or you cannot play in a game. Like a sport, for instance, soccer, their games come very early in the academic year. So if they're not certified by that first game, they can't play, regardless of whether they've had 14 practice opportunities or not.
Wow.
So register as soon as possible if you're a high school student that's looking to participate in college athletics.
And to think that there's one of you, there are 16 sports here at IPFW, there are over 200 student athletes, and you've got to do the same thing for each of those athletes. Do you get a chance to breathe at all?
I try. I try.
So it's a tough go for the students. Do you think the NCAA has too much red tape in this regard?
I do. I really do. Not just eligibility, but amateurism. They've just started with the clearinghouse, this new amateurism eligibility clearinghouse. It's looking at internationals and what type of teams you participated on before you begin your college career. Were you given any type of benefits, money, clothing, anything? They want to make sure you were an amateur, not a professional, and different things can classify you as a professional, not just getting paid.
Such as?
So if you're on a professional team, even though you're not getting paid, that can cause you to lose some of your eligibility. And that's more getting along with our international students than our domestic. But there's a lot of rules, and it can be difficult at times.
Speaking of rules, we talked about this before we started taping. You hold monthly compliance meetings with the athletic department staff. Briefly, what are some of the things that you try to accomplish in those meetings?
We call these monthly rules education, and I pull part of the NCAA manual apart and try to go over the rule more in depth with our coaches so they understand it. We kind of have an open forum where we can discuss the rule. Sometimes there will be new legislation coming up or voting, so I'll gather their opinion on that rule, and then we look at violations from IPFW or from other institutions that have related to this rule so that it can learn from that in hopes that we don't do that at IPFW.
Before I talk about the coaches and the relationship you have with the coaches, what about the situations where you have transfer students? Maybe someone coming from a JUCO or maybe from an NAIA institution. Is there anything different in the procedure for them coming here as far as staying eligible, or is there not? Compared to the high school incoming freshmen, so to speak?
A little bit. With a four-year institution, you have to obtain a release. Their school has to say you have permission to speak with them before they can come or even talk to our coaches. A junior college, you don't have to have permission to speak with that student athlete. There are rules about taking visits once you're in college. If you were a non-qualifier, meaning you weren't certified by the clearinghouse, you can't take a visit from a junior college to a four-year college in your first year. You can do it in your second year. Division II schools, they have a 10 semester rule, meaning you get 10 semesters to participate or 8 semesters to participate in 10 semesters, and it can start and stop, which is kind of difficult. But for Division I, you have 5 years to complete 4 years of athletic eligibility. So you'd have to look at the semesters they participated, when they started, when they stopped, and it's hard to go from Division II to Division I and certify eligibility. Division III, they don't give athletic scholarships, but they still have the 5 and the 4, so it's kind of different.
Do you ever talk to somebody down in Indianapolis and say, why don't you get a uniform standard?
Oh, I would love that.
We can get the phone number for you if you
I
like.
have that number. I actually speak with them usually about once a week, but they are helpful. I think that they are sometimes confused on their own rules just as much as we can be confused on their rules. So you have to document everything.
Without giving any specific individual's name, what's the toughest case you've had so far here?
I would have to say international transfers and getting, you have certain requirements that you have to get from their institution for full-time status to determine how long they've been in school, how many years of eligibility they have left. And with international institutions, they don't do full-time the way we do full-time. We do 12 hours is full-time. They do, if you're enrolled in a certain program of study, that's full-time. So it's hard to get them to say 12 hours for us is full-time because they don't have hours. There's no equivalency. It's like apples and oranges. So that's been the most difficult part of my job thus far, although we're starting to come up with a checklist and saying to the coaches, you must have these things in order for me to be able to certify eligibility.
We've got a little over a minute left. In the final minute, for prospective student athletes, you mentioned briefly earlier talking to your guidance counselor. What other advice can you give prospective student athletes and their parents for trying to make the transition for coming from high school to college more easy, or that's not good English, to make it easier and make the system flow more smoothly?
Well, I would say once you identify a school that you want to go to, if you want to get into athletics, call the coach. Okay, make sure they know that you are interested in them as much as they may or may not be interested in you. You should recruit yourself as much as they recruit you. Register with the clearinghouse. The web address is www.ncaaclearinghouse.net. It's a .net, not a .com. You can register online. If you have any questions, they can contact me. My number is 481-6661. That's my office number, and I will help them with that process. But just get registered with the clearinghouse as soon as possible.
It's scary. You're reading my mind because I was going to ask if there's a number they wanted to get in touch. And again, the website again is
www.ncaaclearinghouse.net.
And the phone number they can get in touch with you.
481-6661.
Thank you so much for coming over and being patient with us to get the things set up. It's not an easy job, but you're in your number 2. Keep it going, and hopefully we may ask you back to talk a little bit more down the road about what it's like to be a compliance coordinator with the NCAA.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
We've been chatting with Abby Redeker, the NCAA compliance coordinator here at IPFW. We will take a break and come back and wrap things up for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, in our 7th year, this is Mastodon Spotlight. You're watching it on College 56 Sports.
This month on IPFW Up Close, we learn as the curtain is ready to rise on the fall theater season as we meet the directors of 3 very different productions. We'll be talking with the faculty of the Division of Organizational Leadership and Supervision to find out what's new and learn about their new master's program. And we'll take you to an exhibit at IPFW's Visual Arts Gallery and find how the shows are chosen and presented. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access, Channel 56.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we thank Abby for coming over to talk about what it's like, the relationship between being eligible and staying eligible to participate in intercollegiate athletics here at IPFW. Well, as usual, another busy week up ahead here on campus. Coming up, our cross-country teams are off now until October 15th, which isn't that far away. It's, let's see, I want to say it's Saturday. They're going to be down in Terre Haute at Indiana State University participating in the NCAA Pre-Nationals, again sponsored by Indiana State University. Ironically, that's where the NCAA championships are going to take place as well, so we wish both our teams well there. Our men's golf team is taking place in a tournament this week down at Morehead State University, the Greg Palmer Eagle Classic. We'll let you know next week how things turned out. Also want to let you know that next week, a big week for both IPFW's men's and women's golf teams, as they are going to be hosting the inaugural IPFW Fall Classic. That'll take place at Deer Track Golf Course, which is right straddling the DeKalb County and Allen County lines off of Highway 427. And for the life of me, I can't think what the other name of the street is, but we will keep you informed on what's going to take place there. Again, the first annual IPFW Fall Golf Classic next week, the 17th and 18th for IPFW Golf. From golf, next up, men's soccer. Got 3 matches coming up on October the 11th. They will be at Cleveland State. On October 14th, they will be home at the Hefner Field Complex, taking on Wright State from the Horizon League, as is Cleveland State. That match on the 14th will start at 7 p.m. And then on October 16th, they travel to Buffalo, New York to take on the Buffalo Bulls in a soccer match. Again, the men's team having it tough right now. They're 1-10. Hopefully things will get better. Women's soccer, Ter Stefankowicz's squad has a couple of matches on tap. On October the 14th, they will play the front half of a doubleheader against Wright State, 5 o'clock start at Hefner Fields. And then on the 16th, they will be at Wisconsin Green Bay. And tennis teams are off now until October the 20th, where they will, both men's and women's teams will take part in the ITA Regionals. That'll be sponsored and held at Michigan State University up in East Lansing. And then last but not least, women's volleyball has a lot of things going on. They're going to be at Bowling Green State on the 12th, and we'll tell you more about that next week. And then they're going to be home Saturday and Sunday. Now, Saturday and Sunday, the 15th and 16th of October, home matches, 5 o'clock start each time. Wright State will be here on Saturday night, and that's a match that we will bring you live on College 56 Sports. Mark Farnke and I went to call. Sunday, they play host to Indiana State, and next Tuesday, the 18th, they will play at Eastern Michigan. Again, Sunday the 16th in Indiana State, Tuesday the 18th at home against Eastern Michigan. That is it for another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, thanks to Abby Redeker for coming over. And there we are. Get the right camera here. Again, thanks to Abby. We'll see you next week. Until then, have a great week and continue to go Dons. Do you ever wonder what it's like to try to put fans into the stands here at IPFW? Well, on this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we're going to talk with the people primarily responsible for doing exactly that. We're going to talk with Brian Miller and with former IPFW women's volleyball player Kirsta Solberg. And we'll talk about a little bit more as well. It's Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. It's coming right up right here on College 56 Sports.
This month on IPFW Up Close, we learn that the curtain is ready to rise on the fall theater season as we meet the directors of three very different productions. We'll be talking with the faculty of the Division of Organizational Leadership and Supervision to find out what's new and learn about their new master's program. And we'll take you to an exhibit at IPFW's Visual Arts Gallery and find how the shows are chosen and presented. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access, Channel 56.
You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
To another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we hope to take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. In our first segment on this week's show, a little bit of a change from what we've done in the past. We'll take our review of what took place on the athletic field a little bit later, but what we want to do in this first segment is chat with a couple of special guests who one of their primary responsibilities is finding a way to put fans in the stands. And they have both appeared on Mastodon Spotlight in the past. To my immediate right, Brian Miller, who has been here almost as long as I have, first as a student, and now you're in the promotions department within the university's athletic department. And to Brian's right, a face that we've seen many times in the past as well, a former member of the women's volleyball team here at IPFW, Kirsta Solberg. And we thank you both for coming over and spending a few minutes with us. You have been here almost as long as I have.
Yeah, I tell you what, I started out here as a student. I was a senior at Carroll High School when I first got the phone call asked to do some announcing here. And as a senior, I loved it and came on board immediately that summer. IPFW was the only school that I looked at and was able from day one here to get involved with the athletic department and haven't left. It's been a lot of fun. Work with some great people.
And your official title these days, because it's changed over the years.
Yeah, when I first came here to work full-time in 2002, was kind of a utility role in the Associate Director of Sports Information, Promotions, and Marketing. And now as we've evolved into Division I and into a full-fledged busy operation, and as you mentioned earlier, filling the stands has become a full-time job, Director of Promotions. And getting people there, getting them excited, and making sure they're having a good time has become my ultimate goal.
And Kirsta, you're making the transition from student athlete to performed exceedingly well on the volleyball court for 4 years here at IPFW to graduate student, and you're helping out Brian in his endeavors. What's that transition been like?
It's been a lot of fun to see how it works from the other end. So I was a student athlete, so you saw the final product, but you didn't always see the behind the scenes, what happened. So they offered me the grad assistant job at the beginning of the summer, and I thought it'd be a fun opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
Graduate assistant, I can't talk. Your description of what that job entails, and then we'll get Brian's.
As a graduate assistant, I assist with Brian and whatever he needs help with. I think my main responsibility has been kind of a graphic designer for the athletic department upstairs. Anything that the coaches or Brian or anybody needs that needs to be put together graphically or to look nice or to be sent out somewhere, they come to me and I help them out with that. So
Kirsta's been a natural fit for us, Mike. Somebody that's always a need that we've lacked. A skill that I don't have is being real creative. She studied it for 4 years, did incredibly well. Her senior year, she graduated with the highest GPA among student athletes, right around a 4.0, and is also somebody that can relate to the students. And although it wasn't that long ago that I was a student, sometimes you fall out. It only takes a couple years to fall out of that mix and know what's popular and what the culture is. And Kirsten's been able to do that, and I think by doing that, she's been able to bring some things to the table that wouldn't have been there without her. And our student attendance and everything has been great and has really risen this year because of her.
Sounds like you've got a good chance of getting a pay raise. Putting fans in the stands, that's your number one priority here at IPFW. What's that challenge been like?
Well, it's a never-ending job. We have a game tonight versus Eastern Michigan in women's volleyball, and this afternoon we go to lunch. We're going to talk with people, say, hey, come on out to the game. Kirsten's going to run some tickets out this evening to a church group that just called last minute. There'll be some pass lists of some teams that will come in, and it's a never-ending job. Even up till an hour or two leading up to the game, we'll have people over at the dorms and over at Kettler Hall saying, hey, reminder, there's a game tonight. So it doesn't end, and when this game's over with, there's another one on November 1st and another one November 5th, and then we're into basketball season. So it's something that you just do the best you can, and our attendance numbers are pretty good, especially for women's volleyball and men's and women's basketball. And men's volleyball last year, 2 years ago, we were third in the country. I think last year we were as well, third in the country in attendance, and that speaks volumes for what we're doing.
Well, you mentioned to me off air some tremendous numbers in comparison to other schools within the Mid-Con, a conference that is one of the conferences that we're trying to get into as a full-fledged member. Can you share some of those numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. On average, the Mid-Con's averaging about 212 people per match, and we're at 630. We would be the tops right now in the Mid-Con, which we consider considerable like schools. We'd be number one in the Horizon right now, another conference that's a little bit stronger in attendance numbers, but not that much. They're around 250. And people, it's easy when you have a coach like Kelly Hartley and a program like women's volleyball, if you just get them there once, they'll want to come back. And so I think all of that goes hand in hand. Fort Wayne is a great sports town that likes supporting a winner. Our volleyball programs have been winners, and we're working with both programs now, basketball programs now, to build those into winners, and that's been the primary focus of Athletic Director Mark Pope, and I think he's definitely put some pieces into place to make sure that happens for this upcoming year.
Before we talk about basketball, Kirsten, I want to go back to you. When Brian talks about the numbers, how if we were in the Mid-Con with Horizon League, we'd be leading the conference in attendance. As a former student athlete, how important was it to you to have fans in the stands to watch you and your teammates play?
It's so much better when you're playing in front of a great crowd. They really get you going, get you motivated, and you feel like you're playing for more of a pride purpose because your school is there supporting you, and you want to do well for them. And even when you're on the road, when the other team has a huge crowd, it's tough to play against them. So it's great having a great home crowd.
Well, you mentioned the word home. Last Friday night, Midnight Madness, it's become a tradition here, and you have worked awfully hard over the last several seasons, Brian, to make it a success. Talk about this year's edition of Midnight Madness, and I want to know how you got those 4 special guests to come to Fort Wayne.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's a great partnership that athletics has with Student Government Association and the Student Activities Board. Even before the Midnight Madness, we worked with the Student Government Association on a T-shirt deal where every student that comes to a game, setting up a reward system, they're going to get a free T-shirt. And that just led into our partnership with Midnight Madness and Homecoming. And Angela Grabchek, who's the president of the Student Activities Board, secured 4 people from MTV, Landon, Durrell, Rachel, and Veronica, to come here, be a part of our Midnight Madness, which was a wonderful event for our students. It's not an event that was for everybody, but we wanted to excite the students, get them excited, introduce them to the basketball, and if we had to use the golden carrot of MTV and the folks from Real World Road Rules, that's what we would do. And great student crowd, actually probably one of the largest student crowds that we'll ever have at the Gates Center this year, was for Midnight Madness. And tell you what, as soon as the teams came out, the band was going, the cheerleaders were out, students were up, and I don't know if you were able to see Quentin Carruthers dunk that night, but boy did he just bring down the house. And that's the excitement, that's the atmosphere that makes this job fun.
Another part of your job is mingling during, be it halftime for basketball games or the segment between the second and third games for volleyball. It's a 10-minute segment where the two of you actually mingle with fans on the floor. Talk about what you're doing and how that came about and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the old philosophy, and Mike, you know it well from your time with the Wizards. We wish we could just sell basketball. They wish they could just sell baseball. You really have to sell the whole game, the whole atmosphere, the between innings, the timeout type stuff, and that's something that that I picked up that's important. And we have a new director of marketing in Ken Horman, and he works awfully hard to secure sponsorships. And some of the things that we do between games are the promotions that kind of allow the sponsors to have fun with their advertising. And
you're having fun here with some young ladies primarily. And this was last Saturday night, a women's volleyball match.
Absolutely, the old game Chubby Bunny, and whatever we can do to build the memory. And I think you see these four, and two of which were with a youth volleyball team, and a couple others are just season ticket people that come all the time.
You had Kirsta do the hard work, hold that bag out.
Well, that's one of the advantages of being here a while. You get to allow somebody else to do the dirty work, and
I get the marshmallows spit all over me.
Yeah, she gets the marshmallows. but hey, it wasn't that long ago where we did the Bring Your Dog to the Game nights, and I was out there cleaning up as well. So
I remember that first time. That was something else.
Yep.
We had Midnight Madness. The next step on the docket, as far as really having a great turnout, is going to be November 19th. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we're bypassing a couple of volleyball matches and their senior night on November the 5th, but men's basketball kicks off the Dane Fife era for real on Saturday, November 19th at the Memorial Coliseum. Loyola Chicago provides the opposition on the basketball court, but you're hoping to put a lot of people into that Coliseum that night. What exactly are you trying to do to make that possible?
Absolutely, it'll be the dawning of the danger zone. The Dane Fife era does kick off, and it's already started. It started with season tickets. Last year we were right around 600 season ticket holders. We're already well over 1,200, well on our way to 1,500 hopefully by the time the season starts. And the students are getting excited. They're talking about it. And homecoming has always been about the students. It's been about the alums. And it's really just been a celebration of IPFW, and that's our theme this year is the biggest party ever. And again, part of the partnership is student government, SAB, Jennifer Bosk, and alumni, and it's been something that this university has been able to be real proud of.
Real quickly, if someone wants to get in touch to have more information, a phone number or an email address?
Absolutely, 481-6000, easy to remember, rings right into my phone. Always available, second floor of the Gate Sports Center. Ask for Kirsta anytime.
Thank you both for spending some time with us. Continued success in your efforts to fill up the Coliseum and the Gate Center.
Thanks, Mike.
We've been chatting with Brian Miller and with Kirsta Solberg from within the athletic department. We'll take a break and come back with more of Mastodon Spotlight in just a moment, right here on College 56 Sports.
Pizza! I must eat. Wait, what is this? Capsicum anum? Agaricus bisporus? Allium cepa?
Can we eat this?
Peppers, mushrooms, and onions. Eat your pizza, man.
Honey.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Did you know IPFW has its very own pep band? The Stomp Band is looking for more members, and we want you to join. IPFW students even receive a credit for their participation. Perfection is not required, just enthusiasm and a desire to share your school spirit. Check out our website for more information. Don't just play, stomp.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Brian Miller and Kirsta Solberg for spending a few minutes of their valuable time. They are really out and about, along with Kent Horman, who they mentioned, and also Sarah Labe from development, as well as athletic director Mark Pope, out trying to instill the public on what IPFW athletics are all about. So we appreciate both Brian and Kirsta spending some time with us. Well, now let's get into what we usually do in the first segment of Mastodon Spotlight, and let's take a review of what took place over the past week or so here on the athletic front. And our first sport that we'll talk about is cross country. Both our men's and women's teams were in action this past weekend. The men were at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, and I think it was the Falcon Invitational. And the runners were led by Hunter Paris, who finished 6th overall individually. 26:38 was his time. Garrett Brattmuller was 21st. Brandon Reichert was 24th. Chris Brown was 27th. As a team, I believe the Dons finished 7th in that competition. While the men were at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, the women were at Indiana State University in Terre Haute. The NCAA pre-nationals, they had 2 divisions, 35 teams in one, 36 in the other, and IPFW was in the white division, finished 30th overall as a team. Michigan finished in first. Ashley Ritchie, the standout from Leo High School, finished 80th overall, her time 21:54. Christina Martinez finished in 140th place, followed by her sister Crystal, and then the Simpson twins, Lauren and Kristen. So cross country got a good taste of what they hope to do later on, and that's possibly qualify for the national meet, which is also going to be held at Indiana State. Now from cross country, we turn our attention to golf. And I want to talk briefly about our men's golf team. They played at Morehead State, the Greg Palmer Classic last week. And as you see up there on the graphic, Evansville won the tournament with a 54-hole score of 856. IPFW finished in 7th. And you see Patrick Kelly there. You see that 70 in round 2. That ties an IPFW record for the low score in a tournament. Matt Fry and Chris Kratzer, the other 2 members that have ever shot a 70 in competition for IPFW. And he also, the 18-hole score in the first round of 297, which didn't show on the screen, that was a team record as well. Patrick Kelly finished tied for 12th. His 220, that's 4 over par for 54 holes. Zach Buchan had finished tied for 28th with 228. Nathan Hoff finished tied for 34th. His 54-hole score, 231. From golf, let's turn to soccer. And a lot of action for both soccer teams. The men's soccer team had 3 matches. Last week at Cleveland State, they snapped an 8-match losing streak, scoring twice, winning a 2-1 double overtime thriller. Trent Miller and Piero Caprio got the goals for both of them, their first goal of the season. Again, snapping an 8-game losing streak, winning at Cleveland State 2-1. Then on Friday, they took on Wright State from the Horizon League at home at the Hefner Fields Complex, and the offense got going. Chaz Perry had 2 goals, his 3rd and 4th of the season. Ben Springman assisted on 3 of what turned out to be 5 goals. IPFW had a early lead, 3-0 at halftime, stretched it to 4-0, and the final score was IPFW 5 and Wright State 1. And then on Sunday, they traveled to Buffalo, New York, to take on the 21st ranked team in the country, University of Buffalo. A somewhat controversial goal scored late in the match, or I should say early in the match, in the first just over a minute. Turned out to be the only goal of the contest. Buffalo, again, 12-2 overall, 21st ranked in the country, defeating IPFW by a score of 1-0. Michael Knitter in the goal had 9 saves in the effort. Now from men's soccer, we want to shift over to women's soccer. 2 matches that the women played last week. On the 14th of October, they took on Wright State and lost a very, very tough 2-1 match. Wright State got out to an early 2-0 lead. Christy Arnett scored on a free kick late in the second half, but the Dons were unable to get the equalizer. Shannon Lynn, playing extremely well in goal, made 9 saves. Again, was 2-1 Wright State over IPFW's women's team. And then on Sunday, the team came back home, took on the Phoenix of the University of Wisconsin at Green Bay. And a tough match. The Dons lose 2-0. Shannon Lynn made 7 saves in the losing effort. The women's team is now 3-8-3 overall. And real briefly, we want to note that Again, IPFW's women's soccer team is in a conference, the United Soccer Conference. Teams from Delaware State, Howard, IPFW, Longwood, South Carolina State, and Utah Valley State. Shannon Lynn, for the third week in a row, named the Conference Defender of the Week. And Heather Curry, who scored 2 goals in a 3-0 win at IUPUI about 10 days ago, was the Newcomer of the Week. So congratulations to Shannon and Heather for their efforts. Now, from women's soccer, we go to women's volleyball. Some tough matches last week, at least an initial one on October the 12th. IPFW traveled to Bowling Green and were somewhat shocked by the Falcons, losing 30-27, 30-18, and 30-24, dropping to 14-3 overall in the year. Fabiana Souza, 16 kills and 11 digs. Jessica Miller, the freshman from Concordia Lutheran High School, with 9 kills and 3 digs. And senior Erica Leitsky from the center position, 27 assists and 4 digs. Again, IPFW loses to Bowling Green, but they rallied over the weekend, won a pair of matches. They defeated Wright State on Saturday, winning 3-0. And then, in fact, those scores real quickly, 30-26, 30-20, and 30-26. Again, Fabi with 18 kills, Sonara Martins with 14, Erica with 41 assists. And then on Sunday, they took on Indiana State from the Missouri Valley Conference and defeated the Sycamores 30-20, 30-26, and 30-20. Amanda Festa with 11 kills. So that's what took place over this past week here at IPFW on the athletic front. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up and then look ahead to what's going to take place over the next week or so. Again, you're watching Mastodon Spotlight right here on College 56 Sports.
This month on IPFW Up Close, we learn as the curtain is ready to rise on the fall theater season as we meet the directors of 3 very different productions. We'll be talking with the faculty of the Division of Organizational Leadership and Supervision to find out what's new and learn about their new master's program. And we'll take you to an exhibit at IPFW's Visual Arts Gallery and find how the shows are chosen and presented. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access, Channel 56.
On Spotlight. Well, again, a busy week as far as the soccer teams were concerned last week and the volleyball team. Now we want to take a look at what's ahead this next week or so within IPFW athletics. And first sport we want to talk about is cross country. The cross country team will not be participating either men's or women's this coming weekend. They're getting ready for the independent championships, which is going to take place at Texas A&M Corpus Christi on Saturday, October 29th. Again, Mike Frucci's squad's doing very, very well this year, especially the women's team with Ashley Ritchie and the pair of twin sisters, the Simpsons and the Martinezes. From cross country, let's take a look at, I want to talk about the golf teams real briefly, as this week, the men's and women's teams are playing their first ever home matches. It's the IPFW Fall Classic being held at Deer Track Golf Course. And we will talk about how they did on next week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight. From there we go to soccer. Busy week. You'll see the men's team playing Wisconsin Green Bay. And that's a home match. And then they're on the road this weekend down south on the 22nd of October. They are at Birmingham Southern. And then on the 24th, they are at Alabama A&M, so we wish the men's soccer team well. Women's soccer has a couple of matches on the road as well on Friday the 21st. I believe that's Friday. Maybe it's Thursday. I get my days mixed up in my old age. They are at Western Illinois, the Leathernecks, a member of the Mid-Con. And then on the 23rd, they are at Valparaiso to take on the Crusaders, also a member of the Mid-Continent Conference. Then we've got women's volleyball. A big match, as you see this program, they will have played a big match against Eastern Michigan, and we'll talk about that on Kelly's Corner in more detail here on College 56 Sports. But then on Friday night, they are at IUPUI down in Indianapolis, taking on the Jaguars from the Mid-Con. And then on Sunday, the 23rd of October, they are at St. Louis University to take on the Billikens of St. Louis. The women's team 16-3 overall entering play this week. So again, a busy week for our athletic teams here at IPFW. Well, not much more to talk about. Again, we want to thank our special guests this week, Brian Miller and Kirsta Solberg from the athletic department over at the Hilliard Gate Sports Center. Brian has been a tireless worker ever since he's been here. What he didn't mention on air is the fact that he also was student government vice president for a couple of years. And he has worked very hard to help get fans into the stands at IPFW athletic events. So we thank Brian, we thank Kirsta Solberg. And as always, we thank you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of the program. But until then, this is Mike Maas saying thanks for tuning in, have a great week, and continue to go Dons. There were some record-setting performances that took place last week on the golf course for IPFW. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll tell you who did what. We'll also talk about what happened in other venues, such as the soccer field, the tennis court, and the volleyball court. Our special guest is Terry Stefankowitz, head soccer coach for both men and women's soccer here at IPFW. Our program is Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. It's coming your way next, right here on College 56 Sports.
Homecoming is fast approaching for IPFW students, alumni, and athletes. This month on IPFW Up Close, we find out what plans are for the big event this fall. We'll also talk with faculty from the Department of Nursing about recent changes in the program and how they will benefit the community. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access Channel 56.
You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Now in its 7th year, we aim to take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. As I said a few moments ago, some record-setting performances took place on the golf course this past week. The inaugural IPFW Fall Classic took place at the Deer Track Golf Course. Both our men's and women's teams participated. And our weekly review will start with golf. IPFW finished 4th in the men's division of the Fall Classic. Loyola Chicago defeated Oakland University in a playoff, 54-hole scores of 848. IPFW finished in 4th place, 1 stroke behind Ball State, who came in 3rd. Now, talking about some of the record-setting performances. First one, Nathan Hoff finished tied for 3rd individually. His 54-hole score was 212. That's 1 under par. You see a 3rd round 68. You also see a 68 in round 2 for freshman Jimmy Joachim, and those 68s are school records for low round for 18 holes. A couple of other records team-wise. 284 was shot in one of the rounds by IPFW, and that is a new team record. 36-hole score was 581, that's best. And the 54-hole score of 865, also a team record. You also see where Matt Fry finished tied for 15th individually. His 54-hole score, 217. What you don't see on the screen, one stroke further back, Patrick Kelly and Andy Campbell, 218. They were tied for 18th. So great performance by the men's golf team in the inaugural home meet for IPFW men's golf. Now from men, let's turn to women's. The women's team also performed there, and the women's team finished 7th overall. Their score was 998. Butler came out on top with a 54-hole score of 921. Freshman Allison Rathsman, I should say, finished tied for 14th. And you see a 71 in round 2. That is another team record. 79-71 equals 150, so Allison shattered the 36-hole record, record I should say. And even though she faltered in round 3, her 54-hole score of 237, again an IPFW school record. Also team-wise, the Dons had a round of 328, and that is a school record, and a 36-hole mark of 660, also a record. And their 54-hole score of 998, believe it or not, 71 strokes better than their previous best of 1,069. So also freshman Abby Waltke finished tied for 25th, and Stephanie Hoppus finished tied for 29th. Her 54-hole score was 253. Now from golf, let's briefly talk about soccer. We'll give you the results now, and then we're going to talk in depth a little bit later on. Men's team had 3 matches last week. On the 19th, they were shut out by Wisconsin Green Bay by a score of 3-0. You see, goalie Michael Knitter had 5 saves. Then they traveled south this past weekend to the state of Alabama. On Saturday, they took on Birmingham Southern, and they were defeated 5-3. Barry Morgan scored his first 2 goals of the season. Andy Bush added another goal, his 3rd. And then on Sunday, they traveled to Alabama A&M and got an early lead. Chas Perry scored the first goal of the game, but Alabama A&M scored 4 unanswered goals. Final score ended up being 6-2. Evan Koss had his first goal of the year, and Josh Howell played in the nets, and he had 10 saves. Well, let's go from men's soccer to women's soccer. 2 matches this past weekend, both on the road, both against Mid-Continent Conference foes. Friday night, the team traveled to Western Illinois, dropped a tough 2-0 decision to Western. Shannon Lynn made 7 saves in the net for IPFW. And then on Sunday, the team traveled up US 30 to Valparaiso, took on the Crusaders, and lost a very tough match 2-1. Annika Apar scored her 4th goal of the year. Shannon Lynn had 3 saves. That's what took place on the soccer field. Briefly, men's and women's tennis finished up their fall season. At the ITA Regionals, the men's team was in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan. The women's team was at Michigan State University up in East Lansing, and they got some good experience. 4 women played in singles competition. Unfortunately, they lost each of them lost 4 of their matches. Men's team had 2 singles player and 1 doubles team entered, and they lost their matches as well. But again, the team is gaining valuable experience. Now from the tennis court, we travel to the volleyball court. IPFW women's volleyball team had 2 matches on the road last weekend. Friday night, down I-69, Indianapolis, the Mastodons defeated the Jaguars of IUPUI 3-0. Game scores were 31-29, 30-22, and 35-33. Nicole Howe from Bishop Luers High School had 14 kills and 11 digs. Fabiana Souza, the all-time kill leader, had 12 of those, and she also had 8 digs. And setter Erica Leitsky had 33 assists and 10 digs. And then on Sunday, the team traveled to Chicago to take on the Cougars of Chicago State. And they dropped the first game 30-25, but then rallied to win games 2, 3, and 4 by scores of 30-13, 30-20, and 30-23. Fabiana again had 21 kills, 18 digs. Amanda Feaster from DeKalb High School, 14 kills and 4 digs. And Erica Leitsky had 46 assists and chipped in with 12 digs. So that is what took place last week on the athletic front. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to chat with Terry Stefankowitz, the head coach for both men's and women's soccer, talk about the 5 matches that we alluded to a moment ago, and look ahead to a quickly ending season. Again, this is Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. We're coming right back right here on College 56 Sports.
Pizza! Must eat. Wait, what is this? Capsicum anum? Agaricus bisporus? Allium cepa?
Can we eat this?
Peppers, mushrooms, and onions. Eat your pizza, man.
Funny.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Did you know IPFW has its very own pep band? The Stomp Band is looking for more members and we want you to join. IPFW students even receive a credit for their participation. Perfection is not required, just enthusiasm and a desire to share your school spirit. Check out our website for more information. Don't just play, stomp.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. As I said a moment ago, our special guest this week is the head coach for both men's and women's soccer here at IPFW. And we're always happy to have him come back and pay us a visit. And we say hello once again to Terry Stefankowitz. Thanks for coming back over.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's been a long season. Last week was a busy week for both men's and women's soccer. 3 matches for the men, 2 matches for the women. And let's talk first about the men's performance last week. And as we alluded to in the review a few moments ago, the first match was played, I believe it was last Wednesday, at home against Wisconsin Green Bay from the Horizon League. And just one of those matches, they got the goals and we didn't.
Well, let's look at all 3 of the games.
Okay.
We're giving up way too many goals. We're excited about being in the MAC conference, and we dedicated the season to focusing on those MAC games. And if you take a look, in the MAC this year there are 6 men's soccer teams. 3 of them are nationally ranked. Akron is the #1 soccer team in the country, #1, undefeated. So if the season ended right now, there would be 3 out of the 6 going to the NCAA tournament, and we still have an opportunity to do that. So even though we're giving up a lot of goals, our focus really is not on those games. We're still experimenting with lineups, and we've had lots of injuries, and we're trying to get the kids rested for the end of the season. And the end of the season, we have 2 MAC games, and we go on the road Sunday, and we play Bowling Green. Now, if we beat Bowling Green, we'll go on the road in the first round of the MAC tournament and play Western Michigan, and we match up really well against Western Michigan. We went up there in the season, dominated play, took them into overtime, and actually in the overtime, Joe Schuring got a ball and was going to goal. They grabbed his shirt, pulled them away. He didn't get a good shot on goal, and the referee didn't call a penalty kick. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to call it, but because referees don't want to end the game on a penalty kick, they let them play. And then we ended up losing the match, but we went away from that match feeling really good about ourselves. So that up-and-coming game against Bowling Green is crucial. We need that win so that we can play Western. And, it's a funny thing about this game. You get on a little bit of a roll. If we go up to Western and win, then we'll go to Buffalo and be in the Final Four. And you never know, we might land in the NCAA tournament.
You never know. That's
That's
the joy of intercollegiate athletics.
Totally optimistic. We have to be proactive instead of reactive, and we have to get excited about the things that we do well. And I see where that's happening with the guys.
If I can go back just a moment, the weekend trip to the state of Alabama. I'm going to guess that there were a number of reasons for the trip, but might one of them be a little bit of a reward for working hard, getting a chance to go down south where hopefully the weather was warmer than it was up here?
No, actually, 2 years ago, Alabama Birmingham came up here, and it was the most physical, and I'm going to say dirty game I've ever seen. The Bowling Green coach was scouting the game, and he said he has never seen antics taken on players, like they were kicking us and punching us, and there were red cards. And after that game, we had a contract with them that we were going to return. After that game, I told the coach we are not going back, but we had to honor the contract. And that is the only reason why we went to Alabama.
Okay. Well, there goes that thought.
Yeah.
But in those two matches, again, it just seemed the one match you got off to the early lead. I think it was the Alabama A&M match where Chaz Perry got the goal.
And Chaz needed that goal. He needs to feel, he was our leading scorer last year, and he's struggled this season. He's a marked man, but he needed that goal to be ready for the tournament. I think we're really beat up, and we're giving the kids a couple days off to mend and prepare themselves for that MAC finale.
3-14 on the year. Again, and we've talked about this many times in the past. One set of numbers, it's not a successful season, but just the fact that they're hanging in there and they're still giving the effort.
We don't have the numbers. You know, at this time, we did a poor job of scheduling. There were 5 games in 9 days, and on the men's side, as physical as the game is, we had injury. Trent, poor Trent's been beat up for the last 3 weeks, and now Trevor Peasley's injured, and Joe Shuring's legs are thick, and Baza came up to me. He scored 2 goals in Alabama on restarts, and he said, you know, I just don't have anything left in the tank. It's just game after game after game. So we're giving him a little time, and it's amazing what 48 hours can do. You know, not only the physical, but the mental comes back. And we'll wait and see, but I think Bowling Green's going to be in for a tough match.
I want to go back before I go forward one more time. The men's team suffered. They had that 8-match losing streak, and then you were able to knock off Cleveland State and then Wright State. So there is still that glimmer of hope, and again, the old adage, if at first you don't succeed, try again, in spite of the injuries. And you say the tough schedule, 5 matches in 9 days. Those 2 victories had to be really sweet.
Oh, it was wonderful, and we played so well against Wright State. Matter of fact, the referee came up to me after the game, and he had done a Wright State game the week before, and he drove up with the other official, and they were talking, and he said, I've done IPFW, and I think Wright State's much better. This is going to be a blowout. Well, it was a blowout, but we won. We scored 3 goals in the first half and just totally dominated them. And there again, it's when something good happens, you build on that. And we got off to an early lead, and the whole thing built, and it was a fun game. We needed one of those.
Well, let's shift genders for a moment now from men's soccer to women's soccer. The team is 3-10-3, I believe, overall. You were with the team last weekend, the 2 matches on the road against mid-con opponents, Western Illinois and Valpo. Mm-hmm. Always, especially the Valpo match, it's always a charged-up match because Valpo, an intrastate rival, just seems to bring out some of the best soccer with your team.
The teams don't like each other. they flat out don't like each other. Valpo, our hats off to them. They're the mid-con champions this year. They're undefeated in the mid-con. I think they're 11-3 now, and they're a really, really good side. But the amazing thing is we absolutely dominated play. Dominated the game. I had parents from the Valpo team, you know, who we recruited some of those kids, so the parents came up afterward and said, your IPFW team was outstanding today. In the whole first half, we gave up 1 shot in the entire first half, and it was a corner kick that bounced in the box, and they knocked it in. So at halftime, they were ahead 1-0, and they had no business even being in the game. We were just killing them. We just, on the women's side, we're just having a tough time finding the net. We're right there, you know, the old adage from tee to green. We're great, but we can't putt, and that's how it is on the women's side. Right now, we're trying to find a girl that is our go-to girl, and little by little, it's becoming Brittany Saylor. Brittany's from New Haven, Indiana, came to IPFW as a walk-on, played a lot last year because we had injuries. And now we've got her up top. She's strong, she turns well, and her decision making is good, and she's getting better and better and more confident. She's one of those real competitors. She hates to lose, and it's becoming infectious. You know, the girls are saying, gee, Brittany's really stepped it up. You know, maybe I need to step it up. So I think we're leaving for Utah tomorrow to play in the conference, and I'd like to talk about that. Both our teams are in the conference. What a great thing for us at the end of the season. We go to Utah, play Utah Valley State, Delaware State. If we went out there, then we come back to IPFW and play in the first conference tournament. And we're hosting. So we're making history. And I told the girls, forget about what our record is. Make a memory. Be the first conference champs. And the Utah Valley State is very similar to us, so it's going to be a battle. We're playing on their home field, but I'd hate to be Utah Valley. I think we're turning the corner.
Can you briefly tell our viewers, some who may not have seen the program before, the fact that both teams are in a conference? We know that the men's team is an affiliate of the Mid-American Conference, but talk about this, the new conference for the women, please.
Well, yes, it's called the United Soccer Conference. The women were not invited into the MAC, so we created our own. There were 6 independent teams. We're spread out all around the country, but we formed a conference. We sent our paperwork into the NCAA. We're accredited NCAA Division I conference. And next year, we're going to expand from 6 to 10 teams. And there's a potential 11th team. So now, all of a sudden, from nothing to I think it's I'm pretty confident that we're going to have 10 teams at least next year, and that makes it a bona fide soccer conference.
Well, it's got to make your and Mike Harper's job a lot easier for scheduling as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Mike was telling me yesterday, 9 games scheduled for the women already just because of that conference. It makes it really easy.
Well, both teams are hanging in there. Again, one quick footnote with the women. You mentioned Brittany Saylor. Anybody else who has really come up and really done the job?
Well, steadiness. You know, I look to the course of the year from start to finish. Probably the steadiest player that we've had is Jenna Tully. Jenna's about 5'9". She's a forward, and because of injuries and somebody was ineligible at the start of the season, we made her a fullback. Very, very difficult transition for her. She had a hard time accepting it, but because she is who she is, she took on the role and has become the steadying factor in the back. If you notice, we're not giving up many goals, and a lot of it has to do with Jenna Tully and Jacqueline Pantello shoring up our defense. So my hat would have to go off to Jenna right now.
And I would be remiss if we mention it on this program. It seems, I'm not sure how many times, but Shannon Lynn has developed into your #1 netminder, and she's been Conference Player of the Week, or Defender of the Week on I think 3 occasions, 2 that I know for sure. And so that's nice to know there too, that you've got a position locked up and the gal's going after it.
Yeah, Shannon has become a leader in the back, and she's talking more, and she's more confident. And you talk about a competitive nature, she snarls at people. She had an unfortunate mistake at Western Illinois. Early in the game, she had a goal kick and kicked it right to one of their forwards who just took a touch and knocked it in the back of the net. So we have to get rid of those little mistakes, but Shannon has developed into a shot stopper, and she has become on breakaways, she's notorious for taking the person out. You know, she becomes this big monster, and she loves it.
Well, we wish you and the teams well. Have a safe and fun trip to Utah this weekend.
It'll only be fun if we win.
And we'll talk to you one more time come season's end, but thanks for coming over today.
Thank you.
Well, that has been Terry Stefankowicz, the head coach for both men's and women's soccer here at IPFW. We'll take another break and then wrap up this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. We're back in a moment right here on College 56 Sports.
Homecoming is fast approaching for IPFW students, alumni, and athletes. This month on IPFW Up Close, we find out what plans are for the big event this fall. We'll also talk with faculty from the Department of Nursing about recent changes in the program and how they will benefit the community. Join me, Susan Alderman, for IPFW Up Close, Sundays at noon on College Access Channel 56.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Terry Stefankowitz for giving us a few minutes of his valuable time. One of the busiest men on campus, not only handling the men's soccer team, but the women's soccer team as well. Well, let's look ahead to see what's going to take place this coming week on the athletic front here at IPFW. We'll start off with cross country. Coach Mike Frucci's men's and women's teams are going to make a trip down to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where on Saturday they'll participate in the All-Independent Championship. Again, both teams doing well, especially the women's team, Allison Ritchie out of Leo High School, and the pair of twin sisters, the Martinez gals from Valparaiso and the Simpson gals from Northrop High School. So we wish both the men's and women's teams well at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Terry alluded to soccer's being on the road. We'll talk about the men's soccer team first. They have a match Sunday at Bowling Green, taking on the Falcons in the Mid-American Conference. And then on November the 2nd, they will play Northern Illinois. That's the home game, and that is senior night, 7 o'clock kickoff at the Hefner Fields Complex. And again, as Terry alluded to a few moments ago, he's very excited about the upcoming trip for the women's soccer team to the state of Utah this weekend. On Friday night, they will play at Utah Valley State, and then they will stay overnight and then take on Delaware State on Saturday. So we wish the women's team well as well. And then finally, our women's volleyball team has only one match this week, and that is on Saturday afternoon at St. Louis University, the Billikens in their first year as a member of the Atlantic 10 Conference. And that will be an interesting match, the first time that those two teams, IPFW and St. Louis, will get together. So again, we wish the volleyball team well, the soccer teams well, the cross country teams well. I want to briefly mention that men's and women's golf, men's and women's tennis are done with the fall portions of their seasons now. They'll get back into action after the first of the year. Well, that will do it for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Terry Stefankowitz for coming and chatting with us and talking about men's and women's soccer. And we thank you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of the program. But until then, this is Mike Maas saying thanks for tuning in. Please have a great week and continue to go Dons. We've got a very busy edition of Mastodon Spotlight in store for you this week. After a review of what's taking place on the soccer field, on the volleyball court, and elsewhere, we're going to talk my favorite sport, golf. We have head coach Jeff Marsh, assistant coach Kim Moore, and several other players as well. Again, our program is called Mastodon Spotlight. Please stay tuned. It's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
That boat was all right. You know, she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour. Unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales. You're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Do you know how many kids are risking their health by eating unhealthy foods, stuffing themselves, and not getting any exercise?
Thank goodness. You got here just in time. Where's the problem? In there.
Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?
Here, try this. The original fast food.
Doctors know that our children need a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, high-fiber vegetarian foods to help them grow up healthy. Call for a free booklet or visit kidsgethealthy.org.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Moss. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we hope to take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. As is our custom, we try to start off each program by reviewing what's taken place over the past week or so on the athletic front. And the first sport we're going to talk about this week is baseball. Baseball team is not playing per se. Billy Gurnon's squad plays all their games pretty much after the first of the year. But we want to briefly talk about something that the team has done for the community, and that is work on building a home for Habitat for Humanity. The baseball team has spent a lot of time working with that group, which has built over 175,000 houses and homes around the world for people in need. And the baseball team has taken part in building a home on Drexel Avenue here in Fort Wayne. So we commend Billy Gurnon and the IPFW baseball team for working with the community. Now let's get to action that took place, and we start with cross country. Both men's and women's cross country teams traveled to Corpus Christi, Texas over the weekend to partake in the NCAA Division I Independent Championships. The men's team, you see there, the finishes of the top four as a team. IPFW finished 7th overall, led by Mike Reidenauer, finished 29th, this time 26-36. Hunter Paris, Brandon Reichert, and Andrew Gritzmaker rounded out the IPFW contingent. Again, IPFW finished 7th in the men's race. Now, from the men's race, we go to the women's race. And again, 9 teams participated in each race, and the women's team finished 3rd overall. And they were led by Ashley Ritchie, who came in 4th individually, her time 17:26. Freshman Christina Martinez finished right behind her at 17:28. And then the Simpson twins from Northrop High School, Lauren and Kristen, finished 17th and 18th overall. Also want to congratulate Ashley Ritchie on being named Division I Female Runner of the Week for the week ending the 24th. Second time this year that Ashley has been named as the Runner of the Week, so congratulations there. Now, let's turn our attention to soccer. Men's soccer team had one match that was on the road at Bowling Green State University. IPFW had a lead for over 83 minutes, but unfortunately the Falcons came back with a pair of goals to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, winning 2-1. Victor Webb scored the IPFW goal. Michael Knitter made 5 saves in the nets for the men's soccer team, who dropped to 3-15 overall. They're finishing up their season this week playing at home against Northern Illinois. Now, from men's soccer, let's go to women's soccer. The team traveled to the state of Utah for a pair of conference matches, the United Soccer Conference, this past week. First game they played was against Utah Valley State, a match that went double overtime before Utah Valley State scored to win 3-2. Annika Apar had 2 goals and Shannon Lynn had 7 saves. Again, a tough 3-2 double overtime loss there. But they rebounded the next day to defeat Delaware State 7-0. Brittany Saylor had 3 goals. Annika Apar had 2 goals. And with that win, IPFW qualifies for the inaugural United Soccer Conference tournament, which will take place this coming weekend here at the Hefner Fields Complex. Now, one other sport to talk about, and that is women's volleyball. One match on the docket last week at St. Louis, Missouri. The Billikens of St. Louis University defeated IPFW 3-1. The Dons were led by Fabiana Souza with 21 kills and 7 digs. Nicole Howe, 10 kills and 23 digs. Amanda Feaster had 10 kills and 4 block assists. The Dons 18-5 overall. Have a big match this week with Valparaiso and then senior night on Saturday against Oakland. That's what's taken place on the athletic front over the past week or so. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, my favorite sport, golf. We'll talk with head coach Jeff Marsh to talk about the IPFW men's and women's golf programs. You'll see that conversation when Mastodon Spotlight returns in just a moment, right here on College 56 Sports.
Mom, Dad, you know we love kids, and I've made a decision that will totally change my life. Cameron's too. It's a huge responsibility, leading someone into, who knows, communication or science or math. That's what life's all about, right? Learning so you can pass on knowledge to younger minds. Dad, Mom, I want to be a teacher.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Let's have a moment of silence for the 35,000 children who die each day. Not just from war, natural disaster, or famine, but from illnesses that cost pennies to cure and pennies to prevent. In 140 countries, UNICEF leads the battle to save children. With your help, we can win it. UNICEF, because every child is our child.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. As I said a few moments ago, our emphasis this week is going to be on my favorite sport, the game of golf. And we are happy to have back with us for a return visit the head coach for IPFW Golf, both men's and women's, here in Fort Wayne, and that is Jeff Marsh. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
The fall season is over for 2005 and the 2005-2006 season, but I think it's been a successful one.
Been very successful. I've been very pleased with both teams. In both the fall seasons this year compared to last year, each team has lowered their average. The women's team actually lowered their average at this point in the season by 27 shots versus what they were last year. So a great improvement on their side, and the men's team showed an even more improvement as well. Their first year, from year to year, they dropped about 20 shots. This year they dropped about 4.5 shots. But overall, consistently from tournament to tournament, they were much more competitive than they had been in the past. So very successful for both teams.
Well, let's stay with the men for a few moments. They played 6 tournaments during the fall, starting with a trip down to Bowling Green to take part in the John Piper and the Collegiates. Let's briefly talk about those 6 tournaments.
Started the year off at Bowling Green over in Ohio again. Good tournament for it. It's a very, very strong field. Went over, played consistently well. Took a couple players that hadn't played. Patrick Kelly, one of them, a freshman, went over and led us over there. Played very well. Was very pleased with his consistent play for all 3 rounds. Nathan Hoff, sophomore for us, played well that tournament. Showed that the hard work he did over the summer was starting to pay off. Then followed that up the next week. I believe we went to Butler down in Indianapolis. That tournament got shortened to 2 rounds. We had the morning round of the first day rained out, which made it a little bit more difficult to get back into the rhythm. We're not used to that situation. We had a tough first round, and we had a little talk that night, and they rebounded the second day and played very well in the second round, finishing out the tournament. After that, we took one day off, so to speak, and quick trip down to eastern Kentucky, which is our longest trip in the fall. And all 3 rounds, I was very pleased with the team's efforts. The little talk was carrying over from the Butler tournament, and they were really starting to get into the play that I thought they were capable of playing. And after that tournament, we took a little bit of time off, and we went to Ball State. Again, another tough field. But over the course of the 3 days, I saw some very good things. We struggled a little bit, but I saw some very good things, even though we did struggle. Then our 5th tournament for the men, we drive back down to Morehead State down in Kentucky. Played very well again. A consistent play, which is what we've been looking for going forward, was still there. So I was very pleased at their efforts there. And then finally we ended up, we hosted our own tournament as the 6th tournament, which is the first time we've hosted a Division I golf tournament, either men's or women's. And The men's team actually broke 5 records and tied a 6th one at our tournament. So we actually finished, the way the standings read, we finished 3rd in the standings behind Oakland and Loyola. And actually Oakland and Loyola went to a 2-hole playoff to decide the team winner there. But very good play.
Well, you had some good results. One of the things that you've been able to build here with the men's program is depth.
Absolutely.
And again, some big contributions. And we're going to be meeting with a couple of members of the men's team in a later segment. They are 2 of the 3 people that hold the individual record now for a tournament round with scores of 70.
Correct.
I shouldn't say, let me backtrack, that's wrong. They had a 70 and that was broken at the Fall Classic.
At our Fall Classic. And actually, I believe it's now 68 is our low, and we've actually got 2 guys tied with that. So we're starting to see the improvement, the scores out of the players that we knew was there, and we're just going to keep building on it.
It's a family show, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask them, what were some of those words of supposedly wisdom that were mentioned for that little chat?
It was actually more of a conversation that the players led. I asked a few questions. I said, what are we doing and what do we need to change? And we've been very blessed with players that are not afraid to speak their mind. And if they think something needs to be said, whether it be to me or Kim, they'll say it to another player as well. And it turned out to be a lot of support. They knew a lot of what they were doing. And I just reinforced the fact that they are much better than what they had been playing, and then after that they took that to heart and kind of tightened their belt and just went forward. So
we're going to talk more in depth in the next segment about the women's program with Kim and with the other special guest, Allison Rathsman. But right now, the golf part for the most part is done for the fall, but what does the team do between now and the first part of 2006?
Between now and basically March 1, we're hitting the books pretty hard. Study tables twice a week, keeping an eye on everything there. And then they're also going to be starting strength and conditioning. They'll do that twice a week. And probably after the first year, we'll even increase that a little bit more, getting ready for the beginning of the season. And then also at the same time, they'll be out at Deer Track. We have some hitting tunnels there in the pavilion that are heated so they can hit balls on a daily basis if they want to. Not necessarily something we require them to do on a daily basis, but basically they're out there on their own about 3 times a week, which allows them to stay in practice.
Something we all need to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming over. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to meet Kim Moore, who's the assistant golf coach helping Jeff out, and one of the leading players on the women's team, Allison Rathsman, as well. Again, golf is our emphasis. Our show is Mastodon Spotlight. Back in a moment here on College 56 Sports.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire. The time is now to save for tomorrow. Save now or work forever. The choice is yours. Choose to save.
On the football field, you've got to stay focused and not get distracted. The same is true on the road. So before your wireless phone becomes a distraction, take a time out for safety. In bad weather or traffic, call later. Dial sensibly and use a hands-free device. You know, your wireless phone can be your best safety tool. To call for help, stop a crime, however you use it, remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. It's interesting, a new season, a new crew, and the fun we have between segments here on the program. Our emphasis this week is on golf. We just had head coach Jeff Marsh talking about the men's program primarily. Now we're going to talk with his able assistant, Kim Moore, who is 2 over from me. And Kim is helping out Jeff immensely. And in between us is one of the ringleaders of this year's women's golf team, freshman Allison Rathsman out of Indianapolis. Thank you both for appearing. I asked off air and I want to ask on here, Allison or Allie, your preference, what are we going to call you today?
Allie's fine.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, I don't know. I'm a freshman this year and been playing golf since my freshman year in high school. And
I mentioned you're from Indianapolis. Where'd you go to school in Indy?
I went to Franklin Central High School. It's in southeast Indianapolis.
And how did you end up in Fort Wayne?
Well, I used a recruiting service to try to get myself a college scholarship, and Jeff ended up emailing me, telling me about the golf program, and I came for a visit and liked the school.
And you've had some fun this year.
Yes, I have.
We'll get back to you in a couple of moments. I want to go to Kim. You've been a busy gal. You help out Jeff with both teams, but correct me if I'm wrong, more primary emphasis on the women's team than the men, or am I wrong in that?
You're correct. I do a lot with the ladies, especially when the tournaments are on the same weekend. Usually when it's like that, Jeff usually goes with the guys. I usually take the ladies to their tournaments, but when we have a free weekend or something, he usually takes the ladies, but it's usually when he's busy with the guys tournament or something like that. So
we're going to get back to the ladies team in a moment, but first and foremost, I want to say kudos to you. Thanks to our Crack Sports Information Department supplying us with some information. The Lady Amputee World Championship. You went to Nikko, Japan?
Yes.
Not sure whereabouts that is.
It's about 45 minutes to an hour north of Tokyo.
That had to be a heck of an experience.
Oh, very neat. Everything's little over there, so.
Well, kudos for winning that championship. That's neat. And now you're going to be on the U.S. team for so you were the National Amputee
Well, I went over there. I won the U.S. National Amputee Championship, and then I went over with the U.S. team to represent our U.S. squad, and we went over to Japan and we played over there, and I ended up winning.
Well, kudos for that.
Over there,
congratulations. So. This is a young team that you and Jeff are working with, because Allie is one of 3 freshmen. Mm-hmm. Abby Waltke and Jackie Spees are the others, and mm-hmm. 2 sophomores, Nicole Geyer and Stephanie Haps, who played last year. Briefly talk about what it's been like working with these 5 ladies.
It's been great. It's been really good. They've grown, especially the sophomores, have grown in 1 year. You can really tell with their work ethic and their dedication to the game now. With the freshmen coming in, it's really actually pushed the others to do a lot better, because the freshmen are pretty competitive, and I guarantee next year it'll be about the same thing. It'll help push these others to do a lot better. So I've been really pleased with the level of play that we've received from just 1 year, and as Jeff mentioned, our average has gone down 27 strokes, and it's a great improvement, and I look forward to next year when they'll even go down even lower.
Real briefly, the women's team participated in 5 events: Youngstown State, Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Northern Illinois, and the IPFW mm-hmm. Fall Classic. What's been the most enjoyable part of being an IPFW women's golfer so far?
I'd have to say just being around all my teammates. I mean, they're all really great girls, and it's just fun to hang around with them, and playing golf and doing very good in the tournaments is.
Well, I got enough time to talk about one tournament in particular, and that's the Fall Classic. 79-71. We won't talk about round 3.
Yes, please don't.
But 71, a new record for IPFW. Talk about that round at Deer Track.
I don't know. It was just amazing. I had so much fun playing that round, and I don't know. I started off holes 1 and 2, birdie, and I knew it was going to be special, so I just tried to keep it going.
What's the best part of your game?
Probably my short game, chipping and putting. Before that round, Stephanie Hoppus helped me out with my putting because it wasn't doing too well, and ended up with 26 putts during my 71 round. So.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I've got less than a minute. Oh, real briefly, your field of study here at the university?
I'm majoring in chemistry.
Chemistry major hitting a golf ball. What a combination. Thank you both for coming on. Again, congratulations on the win in Japan.
Thanks.
And kudos, and keep with good work up helping Jeff with these 2 golf teams. Thanks for coming on the program. Keep hitting them straight.
I will.
We've been chatting with Kim Moore, assistant golf coach, and with Allie Rathsman, freshman out of Franklin Central High School near Indianapolis. We'll take a break and then talk with a couple of members of the men's golf team. Again, this is Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment here on College 56 Sports.
She continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour. Unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales. you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Do you know how many kids are risking their health by eating unhealthy foods, stuffing themselves, and not getting any exercise?
Thank goodness. You got here just in time. Where's the problem? In there.
Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?
Here, try this. The original fast food.
Doctors know that our children need a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, high-fiber vegetarian foods to help them grow up healthy. Call for a free booklet or visit kidsgethealthy.org.
Welcome back once again to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, our emphasis this week is on the game of golf, and now we have a chance to speak with a couple of members of the men's golf team here at IPFW. To my immediate right, a gentleman we've had on this program before, Matt Fry out of Concordia Lutheran High School, which is always near and dear to my heart since all three of my kids graduated from there. Matt, I think you're a junior.
Yep.
And to Matt's right, freshman Pat Kelly, or Patrick, or Pat, I think we're going to call him Pat for this segment, out of Blackhawk Christian. And Coach was right. You do have a resemblance to an uncle of yours who has played the game of golf very, very well, and that is Tom Kelly. And again, real briefly, condolences on the loss of, is he Uncle Jim?
Yeah, it was my dad's uncle. It's my great uncle, yeah.
So, condolences there, but welcome to IPFW. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm from the area. I went to Blackhawk Christian High School, and I played golf for about over a dozen years, 14 years or so, and I'm a freshman here this year, yeah.
And what led you to come here as opposed to playing somewhere else?
Well, a big thing was I had known a lot of the players in the golf team, so I had good friendships with a lot of the people on the team already, and it was just, still, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go away for college. It was nice I could stay home for, see how it goes.
You got your collegiate career off to a good start. The first tournament at Bowling Green State, 75, 73, 76, 224, led the team. What was it like first time up on the first tee as a collegiate? You're getting ready to hit your first tee shot.
It was definitely nerve-wracking, going from being like one of the oldest out in the field to being one of the youngest, so it was definitely nerve-wracking.
Matt Fry, we said you've been on this program before. I remember last year we talked a little bit. You had a teammate of yours from Bishop, Dwenger, arch rival of Concordia.
Yeah,
But, welcome back to the program.
Thank
What has this year been like for you on the links?
It's going pretty good. We played all in the same tournament, so I had a pretty good idea about what to expect. But it was a lot of fun getting these young guys out there and trying to hang with them, so I enjoyed it.
We talked with Coach earlier, and we talked about the fact that the men's team especially has a lot of depth. What's it like for you two guys? Of course, Pat, you're just coming on the scene, but when you got a number of players that, for the most part, are of somewhat equal talent, that usually means more competition. So in order to play in a meet, you got to play well in practice. So what's it been like just to qualify to play in some of these meets? Matt, talk with you first.
Like you said, it's really competitive when you got so many guys that are vying for just a couple spots. But I think it just helps us because it's just like that in regular tournaments, so it just really gets us ready.
I also mentioned, Matt, you led the team at the Butler Invite. You had 76-72 and tied for 27th individually there. You also played well at Eastern Kentucky. I see 72, 73, 71.
Yeah.
And that's bringing back memories when I used to play and used to be decent. But that was a long, long time ago before you guys were born. Pat, the transition from high school golf to college golf, what's it been like for you?
It's definitely different because the tournaments, we used to play the one-day 18-hole tournaments, going to two-day 54-hole tournaments is definitely, it's exhausting for the first couple of tournaments to get used to.
Well, you've made that transition well, and you've had a good fall season. For both of you now, you don't play competitively until after the first year, so briefly, what are each of you going to be doing to try to improve and maintain your focus for playing the game?
Well, like Jeff said, we're going to start our strength and conditioning program, so we'll go pretty hard into that. And then we just got our yearly stats, so it kind of shows what you need to work on, what some things you need to have in mind. So I'll probably just pick those apart and go after some of the things I need to improve.
Real briefly, for a brief while, you two guys co-owned the record for low round by an IPFW golfer at 70. You got bushwhacked at the deer track at the Fall Classic, so one of the goals to try to get back the record for you guys in the spring?
Sure, why not?
Keep the head down and hit them straight. Again, we're running out of time, but thank you for both coming on. Continue to hit the ball well. Continue to hit the books well, because you are student athletes, and we'll have you back on again, and you can tell us how things are going come springtime.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have been chatting with two members of the men's golf team, Matt Fry, Jr. from Concordia Lutheran High School, and Pat Kelly, a freshman from Black Hawk Christian. We thank them. We also thank our other guests, again, head coach Jeff Marsh, assistant coach Kim Moore, and freshman Allie Rathsman from the women's golf team. And as always, we thank you for tuning in to watch what's going on with the university. Quick update, this coming Saturday is senior night for IPFW women's volleyball. Team's going to play Oakland University at 5 o'clock. If you can't make it out to the Gate Center, tune in to Channel 56 Sports. Sarah Labe and I will have the call. Again, the women's volleyball team, their home finale. Last time you see Fabiana Souza and company, so come on out for that. That's it. We'll see you next week. Until then, this is Mike Maas. Have a great week and continue to go Dons. During the past week on the IPFW athletic front, the regular season came to a close in both men's soccer and women's volleyball, and postseason play took place with women's soccer. On this week's edition of Mastodon Spotlight, we'll tell you how all those teams fared, and we'll take an in-depth look at women's basketball with head coach Bruce Patterson. Our show is called Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. It's coming up next right here on College 56 Sports.
You know, if she continues to spill product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
Do you know how many kids are risking their health by eating unhealthy foods, stuffing themselves, and not getting any exercise?
Thank goodness. You got here just in time. Where's the problem? In there.
Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?
Here, try this. The original fast food.
Doctors know that our children need a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, high-fiber vegetarian foods to help them grow up healthy. Call for a free booklet or visit kidsgethealthy.org.
Hi again, everybody. I'm Mike Maas. Welcome to another edition of Mastodon Spotlight, where we try to take an in-depth look at IPFW athletics. As I said a couple of moments ago, regular season coming to an end for a couple of more fall sports. We start our weekly review with men's soccer, where the Mastodons, coached by Terry Stefankowitz, took on the Huskies of Northern Illinois University in a Mid-American Conference match. The game was played here at the Hefner Fields Complex. IPFW got an early lead on a goal by Victor Webb, his 6th of the year, but Northern Illinois came back to tie the game in the last 4 minutes. The game went into overtime, and with just under 3 minutes left in the first overtime session, Northern Illinois scored on a penalty kick. They won the game by a score of 2-1. Again, Victor Webb got the only goal, his 6th of the year. The men's team now finishes the regular season with a record of 3-16. They'll head on to postseason play later this week, and we'll tell you about that a little bit later on. Now we shift from men's soccer over to women's soccer, and women's regular season is finished. They did have some postseason play, but before we talk about the inaugural United Soccer Conference tournament, we want to give some kudos out to senior midfielder Lindsey Williamson. Lindsey has been selected as a Region 5 ESPN The Magazine COSIDA Academic All-American. Lindsay is a psychology major here at IPFW, and she's maintained a 4.0 grade point. And to be eligible, a student athlete needs to maintain a 3.2 grade point average. So congratulations to Lindsay Williamson. She is a ESPN The Magazine COSIDA Academic All-American. Now, we mentioned the women's soccer team took part in the inaugural United Soccer Conference tournament, a new league consisting of 6 schools. And in the first semifinal on Friday night, here at the Hefner Fields Complex, IPFW shut out Longwood by a score of 1-0. Annika Apar got the goal, her 9th of the year. Shannon Lynn in the nets recorded 4 saves. Mastodons qualifying then for a spot in the conference championship match, which took place on Sunday afternoon. And their opponent, a familiar one, Utah Valley State. These two teams played a week ago prior out in Utah, a game that went double overtime. And in that game, Utah Valley won 2-1. In the championship match, the Mastodons came out on top, winning by a score of 2-1. Lindsey Williamson and Annika Apar got the goals. And again, it was a great finish for the Mastodons, a conference championship in women's soccer. Also want to mention that our tournament team members included Jenna Tully, Shannon Lynn, Danielle Orlandella, and Annika Apar. And Annika was named the tournament's most valuable offensive player. Great finish for women's soccer. They finished the season with an overall record of 6-11-3, and they are United Soccer Conference champions. The only other athletic event that took place, well, there's 2 events, I should say, that took place. One on the volleyball court last week. They had 2 matches. Tuesday night, a big match at the Gates Center against Mid-Continent Conference champion Valparaiso. The Dons win it in 3, 30-26, 30-24, 30-21. Sonora Martins with 11 kills and 11 digs. Fabiana Souza, 10 kills and 16 digs. Snapped a 6-match winning streak. And then on Saturday night, in a match you saw here on College 56 Sports, the Dons closed out their regular season with a 3-0 victory over Oakland University, winning by scores of 30-13, 30-26, and 30-19. Fabiana Souza, in her final home match, 19 kills and 9 digs. That gives her 2,200 kills for her career. Again, the Dons finished regular season play at 20-5, and they'll be taking part in the independent championships later this week out in Colorado. Finally, women's basketball began play. One of their first of 2 exhibition games last Saturday against St. Joseph College, a former member of the Great Lakes Valley Conference when the Dons were in Division II. IPFW wins 71-55. Kelly Boyd, 12 points on 6 of 7 shooting from the floor. Ashley Johnson with 11 points. And Julianne Honey, I probably messed that up. Bruce will correct me in the next segment, from Germany, 10 points and 4 boards. That's what took place last week. When we come back, Bruce Pedersen will join us, and we'll talk more about IPFW women's basketball. Again, this is Mastodon Spotlight. Stay tuned. We're coming back in a moment right here on College 56 Sports.
Mom, Dad, you know we love kids, and I've made a decision that will totally change my life. Cameron's too. It's a huge responsibility, leading someone into, who knows, communication or science or math. That's what life's all about, right? Learning so you can pass on knowledge to younger minds. Dad, Mom, I want to be a teacher.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. one university, two great names.
Let's have a moment of silence for the 35,000 children who die each day. Not just from war, natural disaster, or famine, but from illnesses that cost pennies to cure and pennies to prevent. In 140 countries, UNICEF leads the battle to save children. With your help, we can win it. UNICEF, because every child is our child.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight, everybody. Again, our point of emphasis this week is going to be on women's basketball. And with us to talk about the 2005-2006 version of IPFW women's basketball is the head coach, Bruce Patterson. Welcome back to the program, sir.
Well, thank you.
You finally ready for this season to get underway?
No, we're ready to start playing ball games.
Well, before we talk about 2005-2006, let's take one final brief look back. And I know was a very disappointing and frustrating 2004-2005 season. If somebody looks at numbers and they see a record of 5-23, they're thinking, oh, what a crummy team. That wasn't the case. And I'll just let you take it from here and get your thoughts on the last season's IPFW women's basketball team.
Well, I mean, there were a couple issues that were there, Mike. One, I think there was a coaching decision that was made early to try to implement a system which was based on doing certain things, i.e. shooting a lot of threes and trying to equalize the court since we didn't have a lot of size. And it was a great idea. I think in the long run could have panned out if we could have survived it long enough to make it work. But I think halfway through the year we realized the kids' psyche couldn't take the beatings they were taking early because of it, and we bailed on it. And once you change what you're doing halfway through a year, you just spent 6 months preparing to do one thing for a season, and all of a sudden we reversed directions, and it was just a difficult year. The kids, I think, got their chins down a little bit, and that's always hard to overcome. I know the coaches had their chins down a little bit because that was hard to deal with. But we came through it. You know, when we got through it, I think the kids that we wanted to stay stayed. The kids that were not happy with it left, and we went out and tried to recruit some other players to come in and be a better basketball team.
Well, one of the things that also had a bearing on the season, you played a lot of quality opponents last year. Some of the big wigs of women's Division I basketball.
Well, obviously the schedule last year was a very difficult one, to say the least. I mean, when you're going, and the problem was a lot of those big teams were stacked right back to back. So you went from Purdue to Iowa State to Xavier to Bowling Green to Utah to, I mean, it seemed like every time we turned around to Illinois, we were walking into a place where it was very difficult for a program at our level to win. And that was nobody's fault except mine. I mean, I got a little aggressive on the schedule. You know, we got a lot of guarantee money to do it, but I'm not sure it was worth the price we paid. Price we paid in both what the kids went through, price we paid in what the coaches went through. So we've softened up the schedule this year, tried to be a little bit more rational about where we could go and who we could play, and therefore we expect better results.
Well, let's start talking about this year's version of the team. You mentioned that we did lose a couple of players to graduation, Courtney Nicely, and I'm drawing a blank. And
Varia Bibbs.
Varia Bibbs. And Varia Bibbs was the inside force for last year's team. She averaged just under 10 points a game and 6.5 boards, and doing a tremendous job for being realistically 5'11" and not 6 feet, going up against a lot of bigger gals. But they have moved on, and you mentioned some other players have moved on. But when we look at this year's edition of the women's basketball team, let's talk about the returning players, because you do have 8 players who have experience coming back.
Well, the guards were the strong suit of this team anyway last year, and all the guards are returning. I think, in my opinion, we've got probably the best point guard in all of independent basketball. You know, obviously there's some kids out there in some of the conferences that are better, but when you talk about independent teams, I wouldn't trade Ashley Johnson, AJ, for anybody. She's just a very smart player and has good skills and can do a lot of quality things. So we're real happy there. Obviously our newcomer last year, John Lewis Carlisle, is exciting to watch, can find shots, can knock down shots against the best of competition. And you know, you go to the other side, you know, you got Hillary over there who can stroke the three very well and plays defense very solid. So we know for our guard position we can play, and we've added to that. So we're feeling very good about that.
And up front, you've got a few people coming back. I guess we might as well start with Kelly Boyd because she's the tallest player on the team. She's also one of the seniors.
Yeah, Kelly, you know, Kelly's had a frustrating career here. I mean, Kelly's early years, obviously, she was sitting behind V and struggled to get a whole lot of playing time. And as time went on, I think it wore on her. But this year, she's really come into her own. I mean, if you look at the results she had in the St. Joe game the other day, the exhibition game, she was a solid force in there. She doesn't have to be a superstar. What she has to be is a presence. Defensively, she has to be big enough to give offensive centers something to look over. When she gets an opportunity to score, she has to be able to do that, and then she has to get her share of rebounds. And we believe that Kelly is poised and in a spot ready to do that.
A couple of other players you're hoping to get some production from when you get them into the ball game. Another senior, Jenny Green from Lansing, Michigan. And, let's see, I'm going to draw another blank. I know Geneva Murdoch I want to talk about later, but she plays, because she's had injury problems. Natalie Roberts, who is a sophomore, and has some height at I think 6'1" or 6 foot.
Yeah, she's about 6'1". Yeah, we expect solid things out of Starla Williams, who is a sophomore, who we think can give us some good things inside. She measures about 6'2", 6'3", good athletic kid who can jump and get after the ball. Can shoot the ball very well from 15 feet, so we expect good things out of her. Natalie Roberts is a kid who had to spend time trying to learn how to play basketball the first year and how to discipline herself to do that. But she's made some progress, and the other day in the St. Joe game, she had 11 rebounds. So you get 11 boards, you can play for me any day. You know, that's a big factor. Jenny Green, of course, is everybody's favorite. She's certainly the coach's favorite. She's somebody that this coaching staff loves. She's just an attitude from an attitude point of view. She's the kind of kid you want on your team, and you want if you're going to war, you want Jenny on your side. She's just a battler, and she's going to go in and try to give us a good time. She has to recognize, and she and I have spent a lot of time talking about it, what her strengths and what her weaknesses are. Interestingly enough, I think you'll see a new piece out of Jenny Green this year that she could have had last year. She just didn't have the confidence to do it, and that is that she actually shoots the three pretty well.
A lot of good returning players. I guess we should also briefly mention Geneva, the fact that she has had to overcome injuries for 3 years.
Geneva, a local product out of Fort Wayne Northside. It's kind of a sad story in a way, and yet it's a great story to tell because Geneva is a great kid who has academically done a good job here, and she's going to graduate from here, and we're all going to be very proud of that. Unfortunately, early in the season, after fighting to get back, the doctors finally told her that it was time for her to hang them up or else she was going to do some damage to herself long term. And so now she's associated with the team, involved with the team, a captain of the team, but will not play this year.
Wow. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that. That's the returning nucleus of this team. But you did a little bit of traveling in more ways than one to try to bring in some additional talent to the campus here at IPFW. Talk about some of the new players now.
Well, we've added, we've actually added 5 new players to this squad, if I do my math right. We've added 3 kids who were born overseas. One is Julianne. She's a 6'3" center out of Germany. Julianne is a very athletic kid who, for 6'3", who can run and can shoot the three, and she can get on the boards and is a great passer. Also an extremely good defensive player. She's a kid who will give everybody that faces her a lot of trouble because if you try to back in on her, she's got the strength and the ability to deal with it.
And we'll learn how to pronounce her last name correctly this year.
No. And I better pronounce it right, otherwise she will tell me about it later. So, but she's a terrific kid who will do a great job for us. Another kid that was added that we're real excited about, along with Julianne, is Tina Moen. Tina is a young individual from Norway. Actually played on the Norwegian national team, so comes here with some pretty good credentials. She's a 6-foot freshman, great student, really good player, can play either a 3 or a 4 spot, capable of getting up and getting rebounds, also capable of stepping out and shooting the 3, and has a type of shot that is very difficult to block. So she can take it into the 10 or 15 foot mark and get her shot off, and also is a great student of defense, so she likes to play. And you look for Tina to give us some really good things. I've said publicly either Julianne or Tina could easily end up being the newcomer of the year in the independent standings. So they're just both fine players. The other kid that we've got coming in that was born foreign is Pavla Plikova. Pavla actually spent a couple years at junior college and is a terrific kid, can play a 2 or a 3, and has a good hands, good strong body, real strong physical kid, and we think she can help us a lot. We got Katie Schneider out of southern Ohio. Katie's about a 5'10" wing player who also can shoot the 3 very well. Shot in the St. Joe game was 2 from 2 from 3s, and has a good quick release and can get it off in a hurry. So those kids all can help us. And then the last newcomer that's there is Nan Moore. Nan will back up AJ for the next couple of years. About 5'10", 5'9", can jump out of a gym, has got great quickness. Got some things to learn to play Division I point guard, but AJ's given her a lesson, trying to give her a lesson every day in practice. And in the St. Joe game, she obviously took a lot of that to heart because she did a great job, and we were tickled with that because AJ can't be on the court 40 minutes a game.
We've got about 3 minutes to talk about at least the upcoming beginning part of the schedule. Another exhibition game is coming Saturday at the Gates Center at 1 o'clock against Marion College, a team we played exhibition game against last year, and they're an NAIA school. Then the season gets started for real, I believe the 18th of November, when you take your team down to Bowling Green, Ohio to take on the Falcons, a Mid-American Conference school. We can briefly talk about the season opener, and I know you want to talk about a big event coming up later on in the early part of December.
Well, the season opener is a handful because Bowling Green was a NCAA qualifier last year. They're a very good basketball team, and they do nothing but get better. Their coaching staff does a terrific job with them, so we looked for that to be a dogfight. We want to make it into a dogfight. We believe we're good enough to make it into a dogfight. If we can do well there, and well means we have to go in and make them scratch and claw to get out of there, either with a W or an L, then we feel like we can establish ourselves, and that's real important. And I don't mean establish ourselves with anybody else except ourselves. Within our own, between our own 2 ears, if we can feel comfortable with who we are, then I think we can be a very good basketball team. And then we go to Central Michigan, and then the schedule softens a little bit, but it doesn't take very long that it starts to toughen up pretty quick. A great event that the public really needs to know about is going to happen December 11th. On December 11th, a Sunday, we've got 3 other very good basketball teams coming in here. Northern Iowa, who was 20-8 last year. Valparaiso, who was a very good basketball team last year. And then, of course, the crown jewel, Purdue University's women's basketball team, who will be ranked in the top 10, coming in here for a doubleheader on Sunday with a banquet the night before that the public can buy tickets to. We want to put a big crowd in the Coliseum. If we can get 5,000 to 6,000 people in there, that would be terrific because, frankly, Christy Curry, coach of Purdue, has decided to do this because she wants to promote Fort Wayne as a regional site for the NCAA. So if there's anything I can say to the public is I beg you to come out to see this game. You're going to see great basketball, great players. It'll be an exciting time, and it would do a lot to promote Fort Wayne as a great regional spot.
I appreciate you coming over and talking about the season. It gets underway real soon for real. And we're going to be chatting more as another year of the Bruce Patterson Show will take place starting in a couple of weeks. So we wish you well, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
That is Bruce Patterson, the head coach for IPFW women's basketball. We will take a break and then come back and wrap up this edition of Mastodon Spotlight in a moment, right here on College 56 Sports.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire.
Take a time out for safety. In bad weather or traffic, call later. Dial sensibly and use a hands-free device. You know, your wireless phone can be your best safety tool. To call for help, stop a crime, however you use it, remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
Welcome back to Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Bruce Patterson for spending a few minutes of his time to help preview the upcoming women's basketball season. And again, a reminder, in just a couple of weeks, year number 2 of the Bruce Patterson Show will take place right here on College 56 Sports. Well, let's take a brief look ahead as to what's going to take place this week. Men's basketball has their first exhibition game against Huntington University at the Coliseum. In fact, you will see that. That's on Wednesday night. If you see it, the show on Wednesday night, they'll be playing as we speak. The women's basketball team, as we said, is going to be playing Marion College Saturday at 1 o'clock at the Hilliard Gates Sports Center. So come on out and see this team that Bruce Patterson was talking about. The men's soccer team is participating in the Mid-American Conference postseason play. They're going to take on the University of Buffalo, and if they win, they'll move on to semifinal play at Akron University. So we wish the men's soccer team well in their endeavor in postseason play. Other than that, fall sports are pretty much done except for women's volleyball. The women's team, again, Kelly Hartley-Hutton's team, is heading out to Colorado to defend their National Division I Independent Championship. They're going to play 5 matches in 3 days starting Thursday. I believe they're going to be playing one of the Texas schools, Texas A&M Corpus Christi or University of Texas Pan American. There we go. Thursday afternoon, they'll take on Texas Pan American. Then on Friday the 11th, they're going to take on Texas A&M Corpus Christi and Northern Colorado. There are 8 teams altogether in the tournament. That's pool play. And then it'll conclude on Saturday with consolation and hopefully a championship match Saturday night. They have a chance to finish 25-5, and they're going to go, there we go, for their 3rd independent championship in 4 years. So again, we wish the volleyball team and the very best of luck as they close out another successful campaign. So again, also one other footnote, Kelly Hartley-Hutton's team, by winning against Oakland last Saturday night, in 7 years here at IPFW now, Kelly Hartley-Hutton has had 5 20-win or more seasons. So kudos to Kelly. And again, we invite you to tune in for Kelly's Corner, where we take a more in-depth look at IPFW women's volleyball here on Channel 56. That's going to do it for this edition of Mastodon Spotlight. Again, we want to thank Bruce Patterson for coming and talking women's basketball. And we thank you for tuning in to see what's going on with IPFW athletics. We invite you to come back again next week for another edition of the program. Hopefully we're going to have Terry Stefankowitz on to wrap up men's and women's soccer. But until next week, this is Mike Maas saying thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. See you at the Gate Center Saturday and continue to go Dons.